Tamburlaine, the great and revered. 70s Dominus Dine. Trafficked problems to eat with on challenge 2 from interest in Emperor. By Christopher Marlowe. Edited by the Reverend Alexander Dice. Tamburlaine the Great, who, from a Scythian shepherd by his rare and wonderful conquests, became a most puissant and mighty monarch, and for his tyranny and terror in war was tyranned the scourge of God, divided into two tragical discourses, as they were sundry times shewed vipon stages in the city of London. By the Right Honourable the Lord Admiral, his Cervantes, now first and newly published. London, printed by Richard E. Hones, at the sign of the Rose and Crown near Holborn Bridge. 1590, 4-2. The above title page is pasted into a copy of the first part of Tamburlaine in the library at Bridgewater House, which copy, excepting that title page and the address to the readers, is the impression of 1605. I once supposed that the title pages which bear the dates 1605 and 1606, see below, had been added to the 4-2s of the two parts of the play originally printed in 1590, but I am now convinced that both parts were really reprinted, the first part in 1605 and the second part in 1606, and that nothing remains of the earlier 4-2s except the title page and the address to the readers, which are preserved in the Bridgewater collection. In the Bodleian Library, Oxford, is an 8vo edition of both parts of Tamburlaine, dated 1590. The title page of the first part agrees verbatim with that given above. The half-title page of the second part is as follows. The second part of the bloody conquests of mighty Tamburlaine, with his impassionate fury for the death of his lady and lua fair Zenocrate, his forme of exhortation and discipline to his 3 sons, and the manner of his own death. In the Garrick Collection, British Museum, is an 8vo edition of both parts, dated 1592. The title page of the first part runs thus: Tamburlaine the Great, who, from a Scythian shepherd, by his rare and wonderful conquestes, became a most puissant and mighty monarch Sikh, and for his tyranny and terror in war was termed the scourge of God. The first part of the two tragical discourses, as they were sundry times most stately shewed vipon stages in the city of London, by the Right Honourable the Lord Admiral, his Cervantes, now newly published. Printed by Richard Iones, dwelling at the sign of the Rose and Crown near Holborn Bridge. The half-title page of the second part agrees exactly with that already given. Perhaps the 8vo at Oxford and that in the British Museum, for I have not had an opportunity of comparing them, are the same impression, differing only in the title pages. Yes, Oxford, she's. Langbaine, Account of Engel. Dram, Poets, p. 344, mentions an 8vo dated 1593. The title pages of the latest impressions of the two parts are as follows. Tamburlaine the Great, who, from the state of a shepherd in Scythia, by his rare and wonderful conquests, became a most puissant and mighty monarch. London, printed for Edward White, and are to be sold at the little north door of St. Paul's Church, at the sign of the Gun, 1605. 4-2. Tamburlaine the Great, with his impassionate fury for the death of his lady and lua fair Zenocrate, his form of exhortation and discipline to his 3 sons, and the manner of his own death. The second part. London, printed by E.A. for ed. White, and are to be sold at his shop near the little north door of St. Paul's Church at the sign of the Gun. 16 of the gun. The text of the present edition is given from the 8-full of 1592, collated with the 4-2s of 1605-6. To the gentlemen readers, 1, and others that take pleasure in reading histories, point 2, 4 time, twint. Gentlemen and courteous readers, whosoever, I have here published in print, for your sakes, the 2 tragical discourses of the Scythian shepherd Tamburlaine, that became so great a conqueror, and so mighty a monarch. My hope is, that they will be now no less acceptable unto you to read after your serious affairs and studies, than they have been lately delightful for many of you to see, when the same were shewed in London upon stages. I have purposely omitted and left out some fond, and frivolous gestures, digressing, and, in my poor opinion, far unmeet for the matter, which I thought might seem more tedious unto the wise than any way else to be regarded, though haply they have been of some vain conceited fondlings greatly gaped at. What time they were showed upon the stage in their grace deformities, nevertheless, now to be mixtured in print with such matter of worth, it would prove a great disgrace to so honorable and stately a history. Great folly were it in me to commend unto your wisdoms either the eloquence of the author that writ them, or the worthiness of the matter itself. I therefore leave unto your learned censures, H4, both the one and the other, and myself, the poor printer of them, unto your most courteous and favorable protection, which, if you vouchsafe to accept, you shall evermore bind me to employ what travail and service I can to the advancing and pleasuring of your excellent degree. Yours, most humble at commandment, are Richard Side, Roish, Co. Frinter. The first part of Tamburlaine, the Great. The Prologue. From jigging veins of rhyming mother-wits, and such conceits as clownage keeps in pay, will lead you to the stately tent of war, where you shall hear the Scythian Tamburlaine, threatening the world with high astounding terms, and scourging kingdoms with his conquering sword. View but his picture in this tragic glass, and then applaud his fortunes as you please. Dramatis Personae. Mycetes, king of Persia, Khosrow, his brother, Meander, Pharadamas, Ortygius, Persian lords, Ceneus, Amenaphon, Persian Lane, a Scythian shepherd, Tekales, a Scythian shepherd, Teshelas, a Hummerkasane, his followers, Bajazeth, emperor of the Turks, king of Fez, king of Morocco, king of Argier, Kor, Persian, or Avan, Festing, Azdan, Faralane, Faran, Agaidas, Magnetes, Median lords, Seamarchus, Capolan, an Egyptian, Philemus, Bassos lords, citizens, Moors, soldiers, and attendants. Zenocrate, daughter to the Sultan of Egypt, Enipe, her maid. Zabina, wife to Bajazeth, Ebea, her maid. Virgins of Damascus. The first part of Tamburlaine, the Great. Act 1. Scene and A. Enter Mycetes, Khosrow, Meander, Pharadamas, Ortygius, Ceneus, Menaphon, with others. Mycetes, brother Khosrow, I find myself aggrieved, yet insufficient to express the same, for it requires a great and thundering speech. Good brother, tell the cause unto my lords. I know you have a better wit than I. Khosrow, unhappy Persia, that in former age hast been the seat of mighty conquerors, that in their prowess and their policies have triumphed over Afric, 5, and the bounds of Europe, where the sun dares scarce appear, for freezing meteors and congealed cold. Now to be ruled and governed by a man, at whose birthday Cynthia with Saturn joined, and Jove, the sun, and Mercury denied, to shed their 6 influence in his fickle brain. Now Turks and Tartars shake their swords at thee, meaning to mangle all thy provinces. My Cetes, brother, I see your meaning well enough, and through 7 your planets, I perceive you think I am not wise enough to be a king, but I refer me to my noblemen, that know my wit, and can be witnesses. I might command you to be slain for this. Meander, might I not? Meander, not for so small a fault, my sovereign lord. My Cetes, I mean it not, but yet I know I might. Yet live, yea live, my Cetes wills it so. Meander, thou, my faithful counsellor, declare the cause of my conceived grief, which is, God knows, about that Tamburlaine, that, like a fox in midst of harvest time, doth prey upon my flocks of passengers, and, as I hear, doth mean to pull my plumes. Therefore 'tis good and meet for to be wise. Meander, oft have I heard your majesty complain of Tamburlaine, that sturdy Scythian thief, that robs your merchants of Persepolis trading, by land unto the western isles, and in your confines with his lawless train, daily commits incivil, upper 888H, outrages, hoping misled by dreaming prophecies, to reign in Asia, and with barbarous arms, to make himself the monarch of the East, but ere he march in Asia, or display his vagrant ensign in the Persian fields, your grace hath taken order by Theridamas, charged with 1,000 horse, to apprehend and bring him captive to your highness' throne. My Cetes, full true thou speak'st, and like thyself, my lord, whom I may term a Damon for thy love, therefore 'tis best, if so it like you all, to send my 1,000 horse incontinent. Khosrow, it cannot choose, because it comes from you. My Cetes, then hear thy charge, valiant Theridamas, the chiefest 1010 Tashters, Fixtins, of my Cetes' host, the hope of Persia, and the very legs, whereon our state doth lean as on a staff, that holds us up and foils our neighbor foes. Thou shalt be leader of this 1,000 horse, whose foaming gall with rage and high disdain have sworn the death of wicked Tamburlaine. Go frowning forth, but come thou smiling home, as did Sir Paris with the Grecian dame, return with speed. Time passeth swift away. Our life is frail, and we may die today. Theridamas, before the moon renew her borrowed light, doubt not, my lord and gracious sovereign, but Tamburlaine and that Tartarian rout 11 shall either perish by our warlike hands, or plead for mercy at your highness' feet, or for thefts, sasson, for the hull, or ability, cottages, or avalays as the Theridamas and Severids, or 11 to baiting for the Severins and likeways, our tally you have 11 teast sovereigns, or 11 teastine. My Cetes, go, stout Theridamas, thy words are swords, and with thy looks thou conquerest all thy foes. I long to see thee back return from thence, that I may view these milk-white steeds of mine, all loaden with the heads of killed men, and, from their knees even to their hoofs below, besmeared with blood that makes a dainty show. Theridamas, then now, my lord, I humbly take my leave. My Cetes, Theridamas, farewell 10,000 times. Exit Theridamas. All does Tarid. Ah, Menaphon, why stayest thou thus behind, when other men press 12 forward for renown? Go, Menaphon, go into Scythia, and foot by foot follow Theridamas. Khosrow, nay, pray you, Sowsary, let him stay, a greater task fits Menaphon than warring with a thief. Create him pro-rex of all 14 Sowsary and Africa, that he may win the Babylonians' hearts, which will revolt from Persian government, unless they have a wiser king than you. My Cetes, unless they have a wiser king than you. These are his words, Meander, set them down. Khosrow, and add this to them, that all Asia lament to see the folly of their king. Mycetes, well, here I swear, by this my royal seat. Khosrow, you may do well to kiss it then. Mycetes, embossed with silk as best beseems my state, to be revenged for these contemptuous words. Oh, where is duty and allegiance now? Fled to the Caspian or the ocean main, what shall I call thee? Brother? No, a foe, monster of nature, shame unto thy stock, that darest presume thy sovereign for to mock. Meander, come, I am abused, Meander. Exeunt all, except Khosrow and Menaphon, all 30s, a number of Anagestin. Way. Menaphon, how now, my lord? What, mated 15, and amazed to hear the king thus threaten like himself? Khosrow, ah, Menaphon, I pass not 16s for his threats. The plot is laid by Persian noblemen and captains of the Median garrisons to crown me emperor of Asia. But this it is that doth excruciate the very substance of my vexed soul, to see our neighbors that were wont to quake and tremble at the Persian monarch's name, now sit and laugh our regiment, 17, to scorn. And that which might resolve 118 me into tears, men from the farthest equinoctial line have swarmed in troops into the eastern India, lading their ships 19 with gold and precious stones, and made their spoils from all our provinces. Menaphon, this should entreat your highness to rejoice, since fortune gives you opportunity to gain the title of a conqueror. By curing of this maimed empery, Afric and Europe, bordering on your land, and continent to your dominions, how easily may you, with a mighty host, pass 20s into Graecia, as did Cyrus once, and cause them to withdraw their forces home, lest you 21s subdue the pride of Christendom. Trumpet within. Khosrow, but, Menaphon, what means this trumpet's sound? Menaphon, behold, my lord, Ortygius and the rest, bringing the crown to make you emperor. Re-enter Ortygius and Cineas 22, with others, bearing a crown. Ortygius, magnificent and mighty Prince Khosrow, we, in the name of other Persian states 23, and commons of this mighty monarchy, present thee with imperial diadem. Cineas, the warlike soldiers and the gentlemen, that heretofore have filled Persepolis with Afric captains taken in the field, whose ransom made them march in coats of gold, with costly jewels hanging at their ears, and shining stones upon their lofty crests, now living idle in the walled towns, wanting both pay and martial discipline, begin in troops to threaten civil war, and openly exclaim against their 24th king, therefore, to stay all sudden mutinies we will invest your highness emperor, whereat the soldiers will conceive more joy than did the Macedonians at the spoil of great Darius and his wealthy host. Khosrow, well, since I see the state of Persia droop, and languish in my brother's government, I willingly receive the imperial crown, and vow to wear it for my country's good, in spite of them shall malice my estate. Ortygius, and, in assurance of desired success, we here do crown thee monarch of the East, new nate, I am, Emperor of Asia and Persia, 25. Great Lord of Media and Armenia, Duke of Africa and Albania, Mesopotamia and of Parthia, East India and the late discovered isles, Chief Lord of all the wide vast Euxine Sea, and of the ever-raging 26th Caspian Lake. All, Teddy 7, long live Khosrow, mighty emperor. Khosrow, and Jove May 28, Never let me longer live than I may seek to gratify your love, and cause the soldiers that thus honor me to triumph over many provinces. By whose desires of discipline in arms, I doubt not shortly, but to reign sole king, and with the army of Theradamas, whither we presently will fly, my lords, to rest secure against my brother's force. Ortygius, we knew, 29 my lord, before we brought the crown, intending your investion so near, the residence of your despised brother, the lords 30, would not be too exasperate. 4 would not be too exasperate to injury 31, or suppress your worthy title. Or, if they would, there are in readiness 10,000 horse to carry you from hence, in spite of all suspected enemies. Khosrow, I know it well, my lord, and thank you all. Ortygius, sound up the trumpets then. Trumpets sounded, HT. All 32. God save the king. Harry, ex unt due. Sveen, I. Enter Tamburlaine, leading Xenocrat, Tachiels, Usumcassine, Agaidas, Magnetes, lords, and soldiers, loaden with treasure. Tamburlaine, come, lady, let not this apple your thoughts. The jewels and the treasure we have ta'en shall be reserved, and you in better state than if you were arrived in Syria, even in the circle of your father's arms, the mighty Soldan of Egyptia. Xenocrate, ah, shepherd, pity my distressed plight, if, as thou seemst, thou art so mean a man, and seek not to enrich thy followers by lawless rapine from a silly maid, who, travelling a 33 with these Median lords to Memphis from my uncle's country of Media, where all my youth I have been governed, have passed the army of the mighty Turk, bearing his privy signet and his hand. To save conduct us thorough 34 for Africa. Magnetes. And, since we have arrived in Scythia, besides rich presents from the puissant Cham, we have His Highness letters to command aid and assistance if we stand in need. Tamburlaine. But now you see these letters and commands are countermanded by a greater man, and through my provinces you must expect letters of conduct from my mightiness if you intend to keep your treasure safe. But, since I love to live at liberty, as easily may you get the Soldan's crown as any prizes out of my precinct, for they are friends that help to wean my state, till men and kingdoms help to strengthen it, and must maintain my life exempt from servitude. Xenocrate. I am, my lord, for so you do import. Tamburlaine. I am a lord, for so my deeds shall prove, and yet a shepherd by my parentage. But, lady, this fair face and heavenly hue must grace his bed that conquers Asia, and means to be a terror to the world, measuring the limits of his empery by east and west as Phoebus doth his course, or contring the buzz, of course. Lie here, ye weeds, that I disdain to wear. This complete armor and this curtal axe are adjuncts more beseeming Tamburlaine. And, madam, whatsoever you esteem of this success and loss unvalued, 35, both may invest you Empress of the East, wife introduce, wife inkungs, and these that seem but silly country swains may have the leading of so great an host, as with their weight shall make the mountains quake, even as when windy exhalations, fighting for passage, tilt within the earth. To shields, as princely lions, when they rouse themselves, stretching their paws, and threatening herds of beasts, so in his armor looketh Tamburlaine. Usumcassine, and making thee and me Tachels, kings, that even to death will follow Tamburlaine. Tamburlaine. nobly resolved, sweet friends and followers. These lords perhaps do scorn our estimates, and think we prattle with distempered spirits, but, since they measure our deserts so mean, that in conceit, 36, bear empires on our spears, affecting thoughts co-equal with the clouds, they shall be kept our forced followers. With their eyes they view us emperors. Xenocrate, the gods, defenders of the innocent, will never prosper your intended drifts, that thus oppress poor friendless passengers. Therefore at least admit us liberty, even as thou hopst to be eternized by living Asia's mighty emperor. Agitus, I hope Our Lady's treasure and our own may serve for ransom to our liberties. Return our mules and empty camels back, that we may travel into Syria, where her betrothed lord, Alcidamas, expects the arrival of her highness person. Magnetes, and wheresoever we repose ourselves, we will report but well of Tamburlaine. Tamburlaine, disdains Xenocrate to live with me? Or you, my lords, to be my followers? Think you, I weigh this treasure more than you? Not all the gold in India's wealthy arms shall buy the meanest soldier in my train. Xenocrate, lovelier than the love of Jove, brighter than is the silver Rhodope, 37. Fairer than whitest snow on Scythian hills, thy person is more worth to Tamburlaine than the possession of the Persian crown, which gracious stars have promised at my birth. 100 Tartars shall attend on thee, mounted on steeds swifter than Pegasus. Thy garments shall be made of Median silk, enchased with precious jewels of mine own, more rich and valuous, 38, than Xenocrate's SS. Wable 4. With milk-white hearts upon an ivory sled, thou shalt be drawn amidst the frozen pools, 39. And scale the icy mountains' lofty tops, which with thy beauty will be soon resolved. Seaver, a 40. My martial prizes with 500 men, won on the 50-headed Volga's waves, shall we all offer 41 to Xenocrate, and then myself to fair Xenocrate. To shells, what now, in love? Tamburlaine, to shields, women must be flattered, but this is she with whom I am in 42 Dodd, love. Enter a soldier. Soldier, news, news. Tamburlaine, how now? What's the matter? Soldier, 1,000 Persian horsemen are at hand, sent from the king to overcome us all. Tamburlaine, how now, my lords of Egypt, and Xenocrate? Now must your jewels be restored again, and I, that triumphed, 43, so be overcome. How say you, lordings, is not this your hope? Agitus, we hope yourself will willingly restore them. Tamburlaine, such hope, such fortune, have the 1,000 horse, soft ye, my lords, and sweet Xenocrate. You must be forced from me ere you go. 1,000 horsemen, we 500 foot, and odds too great for us to stand against. But are they rich, and is their armor good? Soldier, their plumed helms are wrought with beaten gold, their swords enameled, and about their necks hang massy chains of gold down to the waist, in every part exceeding brave. 44 Torn and rich. Tamburlaine, then shall we fight courageously with them? Or look you, I should play the orator? Teschels, no, cowards and faint-hearted runaways, look for orations when the foe is near. Our swords shall play the orators for us. Osum Kasane, come, let us meet them at the mountain-top, 45 Curse, and with a sudden and an hot alarum, drive all their horses headlong down the hill. Teschels, come, let us march. What's else I'm? What's time I'm? Tamburlaine, stay, Teschels, ask a parley first. The soldiers enter. Use inter. Open the mails 46 yet guard the treasure. Sure, lay out our golden wedges to the view, that their reflections may amaze the Persians, and look we friendly on them when they come, but if they offer word of violence, we'll fight, 500 men-at-arms to 1, before we part with our possession. And 'gainst the general we will lift our swords, on either lance 47 his greedy thirsting throat, or take him prisoner, and his chain shall serve for manacles till he be ransomed home. Techelles, I hear them come, shall we encounter them? Tamburlaine, keep all your standings, and not stir a foot, myself will bide the danger of the brunt. Enter Theridamas, with others. Theridamas, where is this 48 Scythian Tamburlaine? Tamburlaine, whom seek'st thou, Persian? I am Tamburlaine. Theridamas, Tamburlaine, a Scythian shepherd so embellished with nature's pride and richest furniture. His looks do menace heaven and dare the gods, his fiery eyes are fixed upon the earth, as if he now devises some stratagem, or meant to pierce Avernus's darksome vaults 49, to pull the triple-headed dog from hell. Tamburlaine, noble and mild this Persian seems to be, if outward habit judge the inward man. Techelles, his deep affections make him passionate. Tamburlaine, with what a majesty he rears his looks! I in thee, thou valiant man of Persia, I see the folly of thy 52 emperor. Art thou but captain of 1,000 horse, that by characters graven in thy brows, and by thy martial face and stout aspect, deserves to have the leading of an host? Forsake thy king, and do but join with me, and we will triumph over all the world. I hold the fates bound fast in iron chains, and with my hand turn fortune's wheel about, and sooner shall the sun fall from his spear than Tamburlaine be slain or overcome. Draw forth thy sword, thou mighty man-at-arms, intending but to raise my charmed skin, and Jove himself will stretch his hand from heaven to ward the blow and shield me safe from harm. See how he rains down heaps of gold in showers, as if he meant to give my soldiers pay. And, as a sure and grounded argument that I shall be the monarch of the East, he sends this Soldan's daughter, rich and brave, 51, to be my queen and portly empress. If thou wilt stay with me, renowned 52 Pi, man, lead thy 1,000 horse with my conduct. Besides thy share of this Egyptian prize, those 1,000 horse shall sweat with martial spoil. Of conquered kingdoms and of cities sacked, both we will walk upon the lofty cliffs, while that tears of actions are laced in the fish one, while that wonder trimes, and 1,000 trimes, wonders all thou ze, 53, and Christian merchants, 54, that with Russian stems, 55, plough up huge furrows in the Caspian Sea, shall veil 56 to us as lords of all the lake, both we will reign as consuls of the earth, and mighty kings shall be our senators. Jove sometime mask in a shepherd's weed, and by those steps that he hath scaled the heavens, may we become immortal like the gods. Join with me now in this my mean estate. I call it mean, because, being yet obscure, the nations far removed admire me not, and when my name and honor shall be spread, as far as Boreas claps his brazen wings, or fair Butes, 57, sends his cheerful light, and sit with Tamburlaine in all his majesty. Theridamas, not Hermes, prolocutor to the gods, could use persuasions more pathetical. Tamburlaine, nor are Apollo's oracles more true than thou shalt find my vaunts substantial. Techelles, we are his friends, and if the Persian king should offer present dukedoms to our state, we think it loss to make exchange for that we are assured of by our friend's success. Osum kasane, and kingdoms at the least we all expect, besides the honor in assured conquests, where kings shall crouch unto our conquering swords, and hosts of soldiers stand amazed at us, when with their fearful tongues they shall confess, these are the men that all the world admires. Theradamas, what strong enchantments tice my yielding soul? To these 59 resolved, noble Scythians, but shall I prove a traitor to my king? Tamburlaine, no, but the trusty friend of Tamburlaine. Theradamas, won with thy words, and conquered with thy looks, I yield myself, my men, and horse to thee to be partaker of thy good or ill, as long as life maintains. Theradamas. Tamburlaine, Theradamas, my friend, take here my hand, which is as much as if I swore by heaven, and called the gods to witness of my vow. Thus shall my heart be still combined with thine, until our bodies turn to elements, and both our souls aspire celestial thrones. Tushelles and Kasane, welcome him. Teschels, welcome, renowned 60, Persian, to us all. Usum kasane, long may Theradamas remain with us. Tamburlaine, these are my friends, in whom I more rejoice than doth the king of Persia in his crown. I, and, by the love of Pylades and Orestes, whose statues 61 we adore in Scythia, he, thyself and them shall never part from me. Before I crown you kings 62 in Asia, make much of them, gentle Theradamas, and they will never leave thee till the death. Theradamas, nor thee nor them 63 thrice noble, Tamburlaine, shall want my heart to be with gladness pierced, to do you honor and security. Tamburlaine, 1,000 thanks, worthy Theradamas. And now, fair madam, and my noble lords, if you will 64 willingly remain with me, you shall have honors as your merits be, or else you shall be forced with slavery. Agidas, we yield unto thee, happy Tamburlaine. Tamburlaine, for you, then, madam, I am out of doubt. Xenocrate, I must be pleased perforce, wretched Xenocrate. Hebzunt, all the one point without sign? Act I. Scene and wend. I paid for Hund and the members. Enter Khosrow, Menaphon, Ortygius, and Cineas with soldiers. Khosrow, thus far are we towards Theradamas and valiant Tamburlaine, the man of fame, the man that in the forehead of his fortune bears figures of renown and miracle. But tell me, that hast seen him, Menaphon, what stature wields he, and what personage? Menaphon, of stature tall and straightly fashioned, like his desire, lift upwards and divine, so large of limbs, his joints so strongly knit, such breadth of shoulders as might mainly bear old Atlas's burden, twixt his manly pitch, 65, a pearl more worth than all the world is placed, wherein by curious sovereignty of art are fixed his piercing instruments of sight, whose fiery circles bear encompassed a heaven of heavenly bodies in their spheres, that guides his steps and actions to the throne, where honor sits invested royally, pale of complexion, wrought in him with passion, thirsting with sovereignty and 66, love of arms, his lofty brows in folds do figure death, and in their smoothness amity and life? About them hangs a knot of amber hair, wrapped in curls, as fierce Achilles was, on which the breath of heaven delights to play, making it dance with wanton majesty, his arms and fingers long and sinewy, 67s, betokening valor and excess of strength. In every part proportioned, like the man, should make the world subdued, 68 to Tamburlaine. Khosrow, well hast thou portrayed in thy terms of life the face and personage of a wondrous man. Nature doth strive with fortune, 69, and his stars, to make him famous in accomplished worth. and while his merits show him to be made his fortune's master and the king of men, that could persuade, at such a sudden pinch, with reasons of his valor and his life, 1,000 sworn and overmatching foes. Then, when our powers in points of swords are joined and closed in compass of the killing bullet, though straight the passage and the port 70 stub to be made, that leads to palace of my brother's life, proud is 71, his fortune if we pierce it not. And when the princely Persian diadem shall overweigh his weary witless head, and fall, like mellowed fruit, with shakes of death, in fair 72, Persia noble, Tamburlaine, shall be my regent, and remain as king. Ortygius, in happy hour we have set the crown upon your kingly head that seeks our honor, in joining with the man ordained by heaven to further every action to the best. Cineas, he that with shepherds and a little spoil durst, in disdain of wrong and tyranny, defend his freedom gainst a monarchy, what will he do, supported by a king, leading a troop of gentlemen and lords and stuffed with treasure for his highest thoughts? Khosrow, and such shall wait unworthy Tamburlaine. Our army will be 40,000 strong, when Tamburlaine and brave Theridamas have met us by the river Araris, and all conjoined to meet the witless king, that now is marching near to Parthia, and, with unwilling soldiers faintly armed, to seek revenge on me and Tamburlaine, to whom, sweet Menaphon, direct me straight. Menaphon, I will, my lord. Exeunt. IMS is action in the warming over against on to summer, right? Over trime, summer even, summer trime. Scene A. Enter Mycetes, Meander, with other lords and soldiers. Mycetes, come, my Meander, let us to this gear. I tell you true, my heart is swollen with wrath on this same thievish villain Tamburlaine, and of 73s, that false Khosrow, my traitorous brother. Would it not grieve a king to be so abused, and have 1,000 horsemen ta'en away? And, which is worse, 74, to have his diadem sought for, by such scald knaves as love him not. I think it would. Well, then by heavens I swear Aurora shall not peep out of her doors, but I will have Khosrow by the head, and kill proud Tamburlaine with point of sword. Meander. Then, having passed Armenian deserts now, and pitched our tents under the Georgian hills, whose tops are covered with Tartarian thieves, that lie in ambush, waiting for a prey, what should we do but bid them battle straight, and rid the world of those detested troops? Lest, if we let them linger here a while, they gather strength by power of fresh supplies. This country swarms with vile, outrageous men that live by rapine and by lawless spoil, fit soldiers for the 75 wicked Tamburlaine, and he that could with gifts and promises inveigle him that led 1,000 horse, and make him false his faith unto his 76th, how, king, will quickly win such as be 77 like himself. Therefore, cheer up your minds, prepare to fight. He that can take or slaughter Tamburlaine shall rule the province of Albania. Who brings that traitor's head, Theridamas, shall have a government in Media, besides 78, the spoil of him and all his train. But, if Khosrow, as our spies say, and as we know, remains with Tamburlaine, his highness' pleasure is that he should live, and be reclaimed with princely lenity. Enter a spy. Spy, 100 horsemen of my company, scouting abroad upon these champion 79 plains, have viewed the army of the Scythians, which make report, it far exceeds the king's. Meander, Suppose they be in number infinite, yet being void of martial discipline, all running headlong greedy after 80 spoils and more, regarding gain and victory, like to the cruel brothers of the earth, sprung 81, of the teeth of 82, dragons venomous, their careless swords shall lance 83, their fellows' throats, unenvies their fellows' throats, and make us triumph in their overthrow. Micides. Was there such brethren, sweet Meander say, that sprung of teeth of dragons venomous? What for I, certain, as what miss people, what hydrated, for what miss people. Meander, so poets say, my lord, it's why. Micides, and 'tis a pretty toy to be a poet. Well, well, Meander, thou art deeply read, and having thee, I have a jewel sure. Go on, my lord, and give your charge, I say, thy wit will make us conquerors today. Meander. Then, noble soldiers, to entrap these thieves that live confounded in disordered troops, if wealth or riches may prevail with them, we have our camels laden all with gold, which you, that be but common soldiers, shall fling in every corner of the field, in Ostens, and, while the base-born Tartars take it up, you, fighting more for honor than for gold, shall massacre those greedy-minded slaves, and, when their scattered army is subdued, and you march on their slaughtered carcasses, share equally the gold that bought their lives, and live like gentlemen in Persia. Strike up the 84 drum, and march courageously. Fortune herself doth sit upon our crests. Micides. He tells you true, my masters, so he does. Drums, why sound ye not when Meander speaks? I exeunt, drums sounding, W and teaching. Scene, I is. Enter Khosrow, Tamburlaine, Theridamas, Techelles, Usum Cassane, and Ortygius with others. Khosrow. Now, worthy Tamburlaine, have I reposed in. I approved fortunes, all my hope. What think'st thou, man, shall come of our attempts? For, even as from assured oracle, I take thy doom for satisfaction. Tamburlaine. And so mistake you not a whit, my lord, for fates and oracles of the heaven have sworn to royalize the deeds of Tamburlaine and make them blessed that share in his attempts. And doubt you not, but, if you favor me, and let my fortunes and my valor sway to some 85 direction in your martial deeds, the world will, 86, strive with hosts of men-at-arms, to swarm unto the ensign I support. The host of Xerxes, which by fame is said to drink the mighty Parthian Araris, was but a handful to that we will have, our quivering lances, shaking in the air, and bullets like Jove's dreadful thunderbolts, enrolled in flames and fiery smouldering mists, shall threat the gods more than Cyclopean wars, and with our sun-bright armor, as we march, we'll chase the stars from heaven and dim their eyes, that stand and muse at our admired arms. Theridamas. You see, my lord, what working words he hath, but when you see his actions top 87, his speech, your speech will stay, or so extol his worth, as I shall be commended and excused for turning my poor charge to his direction, and these, his two renowned 88 friends, my lord, would make one thirst 89 and strive to be retained in such a great degree of amity. Techelles. With duty and 90 with amity we yield our utmost service to the fair 91 percentures Khosrow. Khosrow, which I esteem as portion of my crown, Usum Cassane and Techelles both, when she 92, that rules in Ramnus's 93 golden gates, and makes a passage for all prosperous arms, shall make me solely emperor of Asia. Then shall your Medes 94. Or of Asia, then shall your Medes 94, or and nobility. Tamburlaine. Then haste, Khosrow, to be king alone, that I, With these my friends and all my men may triumph in our long-expected fate. The king, your brother, is now hard at hand. Meet with the fool, and rid your royal shoulders of such a burden as outweighs the sands and all the craggy rocks of Caspia. Enter a messenger. Messenger. My lord, we have discovered the enemy, ready to charge you with a mighty army. Khosrow. Come, Tamburlaine, now whet thy winged sword, and lift thy lofty arm into 95. The clouds, that it may reach the king of Persia's crown, and set it safe on my victorious head. Tamburlaine, see where it is, the keenest curtle-axe that e'er made passage thorough Persian arms. These are the wings shall make it fly as swift as doth the lightning or the breath of heaven, and kill as sure and 96 as it swiftly flies. Khosrow, thy words assure me of kind success. Go, valiant soldier, go before, and charge the fainting army of that foolish king. Tamburlaine, Usam Kasane and Tashels, come, we are enow to scare the enemy, and more than needs to make an emperor. Exeunt to the battle. IOD. Scene IV. Enter Mycetes with his crown in his hand. 97. Hurist. 4. Mycetes, accurs to be he that first invented war. They knew not, they knew not, simple men, how those were 98 once, hit by pelting cannon shot, stand staggering, 99, like a quivering aspen leaf, fearing the force of Boris's boisterous blasts. In what a lamentable case were I, if nature had not given me wisdom's lore! For kings are clouts that every man shoots at, our crown the pin amuntred annats, that thousands seek to cleave. Therefore in policy I think it good to hide it close, a goodly stratagem, and far from any man that is a fool, so shall not I be known, or if I be, they cannot take away my crown from me. Here will I hide it in this simple hole. Enter Tamburlaine. Tamburlaine, what, fearful coward, straggling from the camp, when kings themselves are present in the field? Mycetes, thou liest. Tamburlaine, base villain, darest thou give me 100 ones, the lie? Mycetes, away, I am the king, go, touch me not, thou break'st the law of arms, unless thou kneel, and cry me, mercy, noble king. Tamburlaine, are you the witty king of Persia? Mycetes, I, marry, 722, am I, have you any suit to me? Tamburlaine, I would entreat you to speak but 3 wise words. Mycetes, so I can when I see my time. Tamburlaine, is this your crown? Mycetes, I, didst thou ever see a fairer? Tamburlaine, you will not sell it, will you? Mycetes, such another word, and I will have thee executed. Come, give it me. Tamburlaine, no, I took it prisoner. Mycetes, you lie, I gave it you. Tamburlaine, then 'tis mine. Mycetes, no, I mean, I let you keep it. Tamburlaine, well, I mean, you shall have it again. Here, take it for a while, I lend it thee, till I may see thee hemmed with armed men. Then shalt thou see me pull it from thy head. Thou art no match for mighty Tamburlaine. Exit. Idea is in seed to ida, stratege, and exercise. Mycetes, O gods, is this Tamburlaine the thief? I marvel much, he stole it not away. Trumpets within sound to the battle, he runs out. 1 trump. All JSA. Eaters, scene. Vive. Enter Khosrow, Tamburlaine, Menaphon, Meander, Ortygius, Theridamas, Tashelas, Usum Kasane, with others. Tamburlaine, Hold thee, Khosrow, wear 2 imperial crowns, think thee invested now as royally, even by the mighty hand of Tamburlaine, as if as many kings as could encompass thee, with greatest pomp had crowned thee emperor. Khosrow, so do I, thrice renowned man-at-arms, 103, and none shall keep the crown but Tamburlaine, thee, do I make my regent of Persia, and general lieutenant of my armies. Meander, you, that were our brother's guide, and chiefest, 104-5 consular in all his acts, since he is yielded to the stroke of war, on your submission, we with thanks excuse, and give you equal place in our affairs. Meander, most happy Tano 5, Emperor, in humblest terms, I vow my service to your majesty, with utmost virtue of my faith and duty. Khosrow, thanks, good Meander. Then, Khosrow, reign, and govern Persia in her former pomp. Now send embassage to thy neighbor kings, and let them know the Persian king is changed from one that knew not what a king should do, to one that can command what longs thereto. And now we will to fair Persepolis, with 20,000 expert soldiers, the lords and captains of my brother's camp, with little slaughter take Meander's course, and gladly yield them to my gracious rule. Ortygius and Menaphon, my trusty friends, now will I gratify your former good, and grace your calling with a greater sway. Ortygius, and as we ever aimed a 7-6 at your behoof, and sought your state all honor it, 107's deserved, so will we with our powers and our 1008's lives endeavor to preserve and prosper it. 1. I reader. Khosrow, I will not thank thee, sweet Ortygius, better replies shall prove my purposes. And now, Lord Tamburlaine, my brother's camp, I leave to thee and to Theridama's to follow me to fair Persepolis. Then will we 2019 march to all those Indian mines, my witless brother to the Christians lost, and ransom them with fame and usury. And, till thou overtake me, Tamburlaine, staying to order all the scattered troops, farewell, Lord Regent and his happy friends. I long to sit upon my brother's throne. Meander, your majesty shall shortly have your wish, and ride in triumph through Persepolis. Exeunt, all except Tamburlaine, Theridamas, Tisheles, and Usamkasane, unporten, sweaters. Tamburlaine, and ride in triumph through Persepolis. Is it not brave to be a king, Tesheles, or Fist, or Sapane, and Theridamas? Is it not passing brave to be a king, and ride in triumph through Persepolis? Techels, O my lord, it is sweet and full of pomp. Usamkasane, to be a king is half to be a god. Theridamas, a god is not so glorious as a king. I think the pleasure they enjoy in heaven cannot compare with kingly joys in 1110. Earth, to wear a crown enchastised with pearl and gold, whose virtues carry with it life and death. When looks breed love, with looks to gain the prize, such power attractive shines in princes' eyes. Tamburlaine, why, say Theridamas, wilt thou be a king? Theridamas, nay, though I praise it, I can live without it. Alsum. Tamburlaine, what say my other friends? Will you be kings? Tisheles, I, if I could, with all my heart, my lord. Tamburlaine, why, that's well said, Tisheles, so would I, R.E., and so would you, my masters, would you not? Usamkasane, what then, my lord? Tamburlaine, why then, Kasane, 11 shall we wish for aught the world affords in greatest novelty, and rest attemptless, faint, and destitute? Methinks we should not. We thinks we should not. I am strongly moved, that if I should desire the Persian crown, I could attain it with a wondrous ease, and would not all our soldiers soon consent, if we should aim at such a dignity? Theridamas. I know they would with our persuasions. Tamburlaine. Why then, Theridamas, I'll first essay to get the Persian kingdom to myself, then thou for Parthia, they for Scythia and Media. And, if I prosper, all shall be as sure, as if the Turk, the Pope, Afric, and Greece came creeping to us with their crowns apiece. To shells. Then shall we send to this triumphing king, and bid him battle for his novel crown. Usum Kasane. Nay, quickly then, before his room be hot. Tamburlaine. 'Twill prove a pretty jest, in faith, my friends. Theridamas. A jest to charge on 20,000 men. I judge the purchase 11-13 more important, far. Tamburlaine. Judge by thyself, Theridamas, not me, for presently Teshellas here shall haste to bid him battle ere he pass too far, and lose more labor than the gain will quite, 11-14. Then shalt thou see this 1-15, Scythian, Tamburlaine, make but a jest to win the Persian crown. To Chelles, take 1,000 horse with thee, and bid him turn him 11-16s back to war with us, that only made him king to make us sport. We will not steal upon him cowardly, but give him warning, and 1-17. More warriors, haste thee to Chelles, we will follow thee. Exit to Shields. What design? What saith Theridamas? Theridamas, go on, for me. Exeunt. Scene Vi. Enter Khosrow, Meander, Ortygius, and Menaphon with soldiers. Khosrow. What means this devilish shepherd to aspire, with such a giantly presumption, to cast up hills against the face of heaven, and dare the force of angry Jupiter? But, as he thrusts them underneath the hills, and presses out fire from their burning jaws, so will I send this monstrous slave to hell, where flames shall ever feed upon his soul. Meander. Some powers divine, or else infernal, mixed their angry seeds at his conception, for he was never sprung 118 of human race, since with the spirit of his fearful pride he dares 119, so doubtlessly resolve of rule, and by profession be ambitious. Ortygius. What god, or fiend, or spirit of the earth, or monster, turned to a manly shape, or of what mold or metal he be made, what star or fate, 2020, so ever govern him, let us put on our meat encountering minds. And in detesting such a devilish thief, in love of honor and defense of right, be armed against the hate of such a foe, whether from earth or hell or heaven he grow. Khosrow. Nobly resolved, my good Ortygius, and, since we all have sucked one wholesome air, and with the same proportion of elements, resolve, 121. I hope we are resembled, vowing our loves to equal death and life. Let's cheer our soldiers to encounter him, that grievous image of ingratitude, that fiery thirster after sovereignty, and burn him in the fury of that flame, that none can quench but blood and empery. Resolve, my lords and loving soldiers, now, to save your king and country from decay. Then strike up, drum, and all the stars that make the loathsome circle of my dated life. Direct my weapon to his barbarous heart, that thus opposeth him against the gods, and scorns the powers that govern Persia. Exeunt. Drums sounding Da-el. Scene Vi. Alarms of battle within. Then enter Khosrow wounded, Tamburlaine, Theridamas, Techelles, Usum Kasan, with others. Khosrow. Barbarous Na-22 and bloody Tamburlaine thus did deprive me of my crown and life. Treacherous and false Theridamas, even at the morning of my happy state, scarce being seated in my royal throne, to work my downfall and untimely end. An uncouth pain torments my grieved soul, and death arrests the organ of my voice. Who, entering at the breach thy sword hath made, sacks every vein and artery 23s of my heart. Tamburlaine, the thirst of rain and sweetness of a crown, that causes the eldest son of heavenly Ops to thrust his doting father from his chair and place himself in the imperial heaven, moved me to manage arms against thy state. What better precedent than mighty Jove? Nature, that framed us of 4 elements, warring within our breasts for regiment, i.e. 24 time, doth teach us all to have aspiring minds, our souls, whose faculties can comprehend the wondrous architecture of the world, and measure every wandering planet's course, still climbing after knowledge infinite, and always moving as the restless spheres, will us to wear ourselves and never rest, until we reach the ripest fruit, 125 of all, that perfect bliss and soul felicity, the sweet fruition of an earthly crown. Theridamas. And that made me to join with Tamburlaine, for he is gross and like the massy earth, that moves not upwards nor by princely deeds doth mean to soar above the highest sort. Tekels. And that made us the friends of Tamburlaine, to lift our swords against the Persian king. Usum Kasane, for as, when Jove did thrust old Saturn down, Neptune and Des gained each of them a crown, so do we hope to reign in Asia, if Tamburlaine be placed in Persia. Khosrow, the strangest men that ever nature made, I know not how to take their tyrannies. My bloodless body waxeth chill and cold, and with my blood, my life slides through my wound. My soul begins to take her flight to hell, and summons all my senses to depart, or idea. The heat and moisture, which did feed each other, for want of nourishment to feed them both, are 126 ants dry and cold, and now doth ghastly death. With greedy talents 127, grite my bleeding heart, and like a harpy 128 out, 128 tires on my life. 2000 Tamburlaine, I die, and fearful vengeance light upon you both. Over restore D's. Tamburlaine takes Khosrow's crown, and puts it on his own head. Tamburlaine. Not all the curses which the 12 under 29 Furies breathe shall make me leave so rich a prize as this. Theridamas, Teshellas, and the rest, who think you now is king of Persia. All, Tamburlaine, Tamburlaine. Tamburlaine. Though Mars himself, the angry god of arms, and all the earthly potentates conspire to dispossess me of this diadem, yet will I wear it in despite of them as great commander of this eastern world, if you but say that Tamburlaine shall reign. All, long live Tamburlaine, and reign in Asia. Tamburlaine. So, now it is more sure on my head than if the gods had held a parliament, and all pronounced me king of Persia. Exeunt. All 04. Act EI. Scene 1. Enter Bajazeth, the kings of Fez, Morocco, and Argier, with others in great pomp. Bajazeth. Great kings of Barbary, and my portly bassos, 139. We hear the Tartars and the eastern thieves, under the conduct of one Tamburlaine, presume a bickering with your emperor, and think to rouse us from our dreadful siege of the famous Grecian Constantinople. You know our army is invincible. As many circumcised Turks we have, and warlike bands of Christians rennied, 131, as hath the ocean or the Tyrrhene, A92, sea, small drops of water when the moon begins, to join in one, her semicircled horns, or basing from teas. Yet would we not be braved with foreign power, nor raise our siege before the Grecians yield, or breathless lie before the city walls. King of Fez, renowned and numbered and 33 emperor, and mighty general, What, if you sent the bassos of your guard to charge him to remain in Asia, or else to threaten death and deadly arms? As from the mouth of mighty Bajazeth. Bajazeth, he thee, my basso, Psalm 34, fast, to Persia, Psalm 34. Tell him thy lord, the Turkish emperor, dread lord of Afric, Europe and Asia, great king and conqueror of Gracia, the ocean, Terrene, and the coal-black sea, the high and highest monarch of the world, wills and commands, or Rist and Tari. Yush, Arsadispears, as the Mata classed, not 13.5, once to set his foot in 12.6 Africa, or spread, 137, his colors in Gracia, lest he incur the fury of my wrath. Tell him I am content to take a truce, because I hear he bears a valiant mind. But if, presuming on his silly power, he be so mad to manage arms with me, then stay thou with him, say collars. I bid thee so, and if, before the sun have measured heaven, 138, with triple circuit, thou regret us not, we mean to take his mornings next, arise. For messenger he will not be reclaimed, and mean to fetch thee in despite of him. Basso, most great and puissant monarch of the earth, your basso will accomplish your behest, and shew your pleasure to the Persian, as fits the legate of the stately Turk. Exit est. King of Argier. They say he is the king of Persia, but, if he dare attempt to stir your siege, 'twere requisite he should be 10 times more, for all flesh quakes at your magnificence. Bajazeth, true Argier and trembles at my looks, King of Morocco, the spring is hindered by your smothering host, for neither rain can fall upon the earth, nor sun reflects his virtuous beams thereon. The ground is mantled with such multitudes. Bajazeth, all this is true as holy Muhammad, and all the trees are blasted with our breaths. King of Fez, what thinks your greatness best to be achieved in pursuit of the city's overthrow? Bajazeth, I will the captive pioneers, verse 39, of Argier. Cut off the water that by leaden pipes runs to the city from the mountain. Your 2,000 horse shall forage up and down, that no relief or succor come by land, and all the sea my galleys countermand. Then shall our footmen lie within the trench, and with their cannons, mouthed like Orcus's gulf, batter the walls, and we will enter in, and thus the Grecians shall be conquered. So exunt, well exent. Scene, ei. Enter Xenocrate, Agidas, Anipe with others. Agidas, Madam Xenocrat, may I presume to know the cause of these unquiet fits, that work such trouble to your wonted rest? 'Tis more than pity such a heavenly face should by heart's sorrow wax so wan and pale, when your offensive rape by Tamburlaine, which of your whole displeasures should be most, hath seemed to be digested long ago. Xenocrat, although it be digested long ago, as his exceeding favours have deserved, and might content the Queen of Heaven, as well as it hath changed my first conceived disdain. Yet since a farther passion feeds my thoughts with ceaseless point and tea and disconsolate conceits, 141, which dye my looks so lifeless as they are, and might, if my extremes had full events, make me the ghastly counterfeit, 142, of death. Agitus, eternal heaven sooner be dissolved, and all that pierceth Phoebus's silver eye, before such hap fall to Xenocrate. Xenocrate, life and soul still hover in his pointing 3 breast, and leave my body senseless as the earth, or else unite you 124, 14.4, to his life and soul, that I may live and die with Tamburlaine. Enter, behind, Tamburlaine, with Techelles and others. Agidas, with Tamburlaine. Ah, fair Xenocrat, let not a man so vile and barbarous, that holds you from your father in despite, and keeps you from the honors of a queen, being supposed his worthless concubine, be honored with your love, but for necessity. So, now the mighty Soldan hears of you. Your Highness needs not doubt, but in short time he will, with Tamburlaine's destruction, redeem you from this deadly servitude. Xenocrate, leave Tho 14:5 to wound me with these words, and speak of Tamburlaine as he deserves. The entertainment we have had of him is far from villainy or servitude, and might in noble minds be counted princely. Agides, how can you fancy one that looks so fierce only disposes to martial stratagems, who, when he shall embrace you in his arms, will tell how many 1,000 men he slew, and, when you look for amorous discourse, will rattle forth his facts of 146 off 0446. Evate of war and blood, too harsh a subject for your dainty ears. Xenocrate, eyes looks the sun through Nilus's flowing stream, or when the morning holds him in her arms, so looks my lordly love, fair Tamburlaine, his talk, much 14:7, sweeter than the muses' song, they sung for honor gainst Pyrrhides, 14:8, or 14:8, or when Minerva did with Neptune strive. And higher would I rear my estimate than Juno, sister to the highest god, if I were matched with mighty Tamburlaine. Agides, yet be not so inconstant in your love, but let the young Arabian, 149, live in hope, after your rescue to enjoy his choice. You see, though, first the king of Persia, being a shepherd, seemed to love you much, now, in his majesty, he leaves those looks, those words of favor, and those comfortings, and gives no more than common courtesies. Xenocrate, thence rise the tears that so disdain my cheeks, fearing his love 150 through my unworthiness. Tamburlaine goes to her and takes her away lovingly by the hand, looking wrathfully on Agides, and says nothing. Oxyant all except Agides, Oxyant, or Oceant, so she's a sing. Agides, betrayed by fortune and suspicious love, threatened with frowning wrath and jealousy, surprised with fear of un51. Hideous revenge, I stand aghast, but most astonied, to see his collar shut in secret thoughts, and wrapped in silence of his angry soul, upon his brows was portrayed ugly death, and in his eyes the fury, 152 of his heart, that shone 53 as comets, menacing revenge, and cast a pale complexion on his cheeks. As when the seaman sees the Hyades gather an army of Cimmerian clouds, Auster and Aquilon, with winged steeds, all sweating, tilt about the watery heavens, with shivering spears enforcing thunderclaps, and from their shields strike flames of lightning, all fearful folds his sails, and sounds the main, lifting his prayers to the heavens for aid, against the terror of the winds and waves. So fares Agides for the late felt frowns, that send number and 54, a tempest to my daunted thoughts, and make my soul divine her overthrow. Re-enter Techelles with a naked dagger and Osamkasane. Who? Techelles, see you, Agides, how the king salutes you. He bids you prophesy what it imports. Agides, I prophesied before, and now I prove. The killing frowns of jealousy and love. He needed not with words confirm my fear, for words are vain where working tools present. The naked action of my threatened end, it says, Agides, thou shalt surely die, and of extremities elect the least. More honor and less pain it may procure, to die by this resolved hand of thine, than stay the torments he and heaven have sworn. Then haste, Agides, and prevent the plagues, which thy prolonged fates may draw on thee. Go wander free from fear of tyrant's rage, removed from the torments and the hell, wherewith he may excruciate thy soul, and let Agides by Agides die, and with this stab slumber eternally. Stabs himself, stabs himself. Why batten? Why batten? Techelles. Usum kasane, see, how right the man hath hit the meaning of my lord the king. Usum kasane, faith and Techelles, it was manly done, and, since he was so wise and honorable, let us afford him now the bearing hence, and crave his triple worthy burial. Techelles, agreed. Kasane, we will honor him. Exeunt, bearing out the body. Sic enter Tamburlaine, Techelles, Usum Kasane, Theridamas, Abaso, Zenocrate, Anipe, with others. Tamburlaine. Baso, by this, thy lord and master knows, I mean to meet him in Bithynia, see how he comes. Tush, Turks are full of brags, and menace 155, more than they can well perform. He meet me in the field, and fetch 856 thee hence. Alas, poor Turk, his fortune is too weak. And counter with the strength of Tamburlaine, view well my camp, and speak indifferently. Do not my captains and my soldiers look as if they meant to conquer Africa? Baso, your men are valiant, but their number few, and cannot terrify his mighty host, my lord, the great commander of the world, besides 15 contributory kings, hath now in arms 10,000 Janissaries, mounted on lusty Mauritanian steeds, brought to the war by men of Tripoli, 200,000 footmen that have served, in 2 said battles fought in Gracia. And for the expedition of this war, if he think good, can from his garrisons withdraw as many more to follow him. Techelles, the more he brings, the greater is the spoil, for, when they perish by our warlike hands, we mean to set 157 2-hour footmen on their steeds, and rifle all those stately Janizars. Tamburlaine, but will those kings accompany your lord? Baso, such as, His Highness please, but some must stay, to rule the provinces he late subdued. Tamburlaine, to his officers, then fight courageously, their crowns are yours, where in PCI, where NB, their crowns are yours, this hand shall set them on your conquering heads. That made me Emperor of Asia. Usum Kasane, let him bring millions infinite of men, unpeopling Western Africa and Greece. Yet we assure us of the victory. Juan books all thee a victory. Theridamas, even he that in a trice vanquished 2 kings, more mighty than the Turkish emperor, shall rouse him out of Europe and pursue his scattered army till they yield or die. Tamburlaine, well said Theridamas, speak in that mood, for will and shall best fitteth Tamburlaine, whose smiling stars give him assured hope of martial triumph ere he meet his foes. I that am, termed the scourge and wrath of God, the only fear and terror of the world, will first subdue the Turk, and then enlarge those Christian captives which you keep as slaves, burdening their bodies with your heavy chains, and feeding them with thin and slender fare. That naked row about the Terrene 158C, and, when they chance to rest or breathe vivhd a space, are punished with bastones 160 stes s 160 so grievously that they 61 lie panting on the galley's side, and strive for life at every stroke they give. These are the cruel pirates of Argier, that damned train, the scum of Africa, inhabited with straggling runagates, that make quick havoc of the Christian blood. But, as I live, that town shall curse the time that Tamburlaine set foot in Africa. Enter Bajazeth, Basos, the kings of Fez, Morocco, and Argier, Zabina and Abia. Bahazeth, Basos and Janissaries of my guard, attend upon the person of your lord, the greatest potentate of Africa. Tamburlaine, To shells and the rest, prepare your swords, I mean to encounter with that Bajazeth. Bajazeth, kings of Fez, Morocco, 62 to Nursters, and Argir, he calls me Bajazeth, whom you call Lord. Note the presumption of this Scythian slave. I tell thee, villain, those that lead my horse, have to their names titles, some sing 3-2. Tamburlaine, and know thou, Turk, that those which lead my horse shall lead thee captive thorough Africa, and darst thou bluntly call me Tamburlaine. Bajazeth, by Mahomet, my kinsman's sepulchre, and by the holy Alcoran, I swear he shall be made a chaste and lustless eunuch, and in my Sorel 164 2 Mastis 10 my concubines, all his captains that thus stoutly stand shall draw the chariot of my empress, whom I have brought to see their overthrow. Tamburlaine, by this my sword that conquered Persia, thy fall shall make me famous through the world. I will not tell thee how Isle was 16-5. Handle thee, but every common soldier of my camp shall smile to see thy miserable state. King of Fez, what means the 166 mighty Turkish emperor to talk with one so base as Tamburlaine? King of Morocco, ye Moors and valiant men of Barbary, how can ye suffer these indignities? King of Argir, leave words and let them feel your lance's points, which glided through the bowels of the Greeks. Bajazeth, well said, my stout contributory kings, your threefold army and my hugy 67 host shall swallow up these base-born Persians. Tashiels, Poisson, renowned, 168, and mighty Tamburlaine, why stay we thus prolonging of 169 their lives? Pteradamas, I long to see those crowns won by our swords, that we may rule 170 tonight as kings of Africa. Usum Kasane, what coward would not fight for such a prize? Tamburlaine, fight all courageously, and be you kings, I speak it, and my words are oracles. Bajazeth, Sabina, mother of three braver, 17-1, in 724, 700, 900, boys. Often our 8 and our F, 1 our F, T.G. dog, 2. Baha 1700 an our other, 17. Daga 1700 daga, Zevendaga, mom, daga, minus, of warlike lance, who, when they come unto their father's age, will batter turrets with their manly fists. Sit here upon this royal chair of state, and on thy head wear my imperial crown, until I bring this sturdy Tamburlaine, and all his captains bound in captive chains. Zabina, such good success happened to Bajazeth. Tamburlaine, Zenocrat, the loveliest maid alive, fairer than rocks of pearl and precious stone, the only paragon of Tamburlaine, whose eyes are brighter than the lamps of heaven, and speech more pleasant than sweet harmony, that with thy looks canst clear the darkened sky, and calm the rage of thundering Jupiter. Sit down by her, adorned with my crown, as if thou wert the empress of the world. Stir not, Xenocrate, until thou see me march victoriously with all my men, triumphing over him and these his kings, which I will bring as vassals to thy feet. Till then, take thou my crown, vaunt of my worth, and manage words with her as we will arms. Xenocrate, and may my love, the king of Persia, return with victory and free from wound. If Semper, Bajazeth, now shalt thou feel the force of Turkish arms, which lately made all Europe quake for fear. I have of Turks, Arabians, Moors, and Jews enough to cover all Bithynia. Let thousands die, their slaughtered carcasses shall serve for walls and bulwarks to the rest. And as the heads of Hydra, so my power, subdued, shall stand as mighty as before. if they should yield their necks unto the sword, thy soldiers' arms could not endure to strike so many blows as I have heads for them. 174. Thou know'st not, foolish hardy Tamburlaine, what 'tis to meet me in the open field, that leave no ground for thee to march upon. Tamburlaine, our conquering swords shall marshal us the way we use to march upon the slaughtered foe, trampling their bowels with our horses' hooves, brave horses bred on the 17-5 white Tartarian hills. My camp is like to Julius Caesar's host that never fought but had the victory. Nor in Pharsalia was there such hot war as these, my followers, willingly would have. Legions of spirits, fleeting in the air, direct our bullets and our weapons' points, and make your strokes to wound the senseless light. 176. And when she sees our bloody colors spread, then victory begins to take her flight, resting herself upon my milk-white tent. But come, my lords, to weapons let us fall. The field is ours, the Turk his wife and all. Exit with his followers. Bajazeth, come, kings and bassos, let us glut our swords, that thirst to drink the feeble Persian's blood. Exit with his followers. Zabina, base concubine, must thou be placed by me, that am the empress of the mighty Turk. Xenocrate, disdainful Turkis and unreverend boss, a 77, quolst 77, quolst 77 per twain, that am betrothed unto the great and mighty Tamburlaine. Zabina, to Tamburlaine, the great Tartarian thief. Xenocrate, thou wilt repent these lavish words of thine, when thy great basso master and thyself must plead for mercy at his kingly feet, and sue to me to be your advocate. 178. Zabina, and sue to thee, I tell thee, shameless girl, thou shalt be laundress to my waiting maid. How likest thou her, Abia? Will she serve? Eba, madam, she thinks perhaps she is too fine, but I shall turn her into other weeds, and make her dainty fingers fall to work. Xenocrate, hear'st thou, Anipe, how thy drudge doth talk, and how my slave, her mistress, menaceth? Both for their sauciness shall be employed to dress the common soldier's meat and drink, for we will scorn they should come near ourselves. Anipe, yet sometimes let your highness send for them to do the work my chambermaid disdains. They sound to the battle within. Instances are 85 as continues. Xenocrate, ye gods and powers that govern Persia, and made my lordly love her worthy king, now strengthen him against the Turkish Bajazeth, and let his foes, like flocks of fearful roes pursued by hunters, fly his angry looks, that I may see him issue conqueror. Zabina, now Mahomet, solicit God himself, and make him rain down murdering shot from heaven, to dash the Scythians' brains, and strike them dead, that dare 79, to manage arms with him, that offered jewels to thy sacred shrine, when first he warred against the Christians. They sound again to the battle within. One hunk of love, strawed jest, and texting within. Xenocrate, by this the Turks lie weltering in their blood, and Tamburlaine is lord of Africa. Zabina, thou art deceived. I heard the trumpet sound, as when my emperor overthrew the Greeks and led them captive into Africa. Straight will I use thee as thy pride deserves. Prepare thyself to live and die my slave. Xenocrate, if Mahomet should come from heaven and swear, my royal lord is slain or conquered, yet should he not persuade me otherwise, but that he lives and will be conqueror. Re-enter Bajazeth, pursued by Tamburlaine, Abius, 80, or Tamburlaine, now king of Bassos, who is conqueror? Who is conqueror? Bajazeth, thou, by the fortune of this damned foil, seat, asked 81. Tamburlaine, where are your stout contributory kings? Re-enter Techelles, Theridamas, and Usamkasane. Techelles, we have their crowns, their bodies strow the field. Tamburlaine, each man a crown, why, kingly fought, I faith. Deliver them into my treasury. Xenocrate, now let me offer to my gracious lord his royal crown again, so highly won. Tamburlaine, nay, take the Turkish crown from her, Xenocrate, and crown me emperor of Africa. Zabina, no, Tamburlaine, though now thou gat's 18 the best, thou shalt not yet be lord of Africa. Theridamas, give her the crown, Turkis, you were best. Also, takes it from her, as a nation, Mabion. Zabina, injurious villains, thieves, runagates, how dare you thus abuse my majesty? Theridamas, here, madam, you are empress, she is none. Gives it to Xenocrat, one s it, just the ID. Tamburlaine, not now, Theridamas, her time is past. The pillars that have bolstered up those terms are fallen in clusters at my conquering feet. Sabina, though he be prisoner, he may be ransomed. Tamburlaine, not all the world shall ransom Bajazeth. Bajazeth, fair Zabina, we have lost the field, and never had the Turkish emperor so great a foil by any foreign foe. Now will the Christian miscreants be glad, ringing with joy their superstitious bells, and making bonfires for my overthrow. But, ere I die, those foul idolaters shall make me bonfires with their filthy bones. For, though the glory of this day be lost, Afric and Greece have garrisons enough to make me sovereign of the earth again. Tamburlaine, those walled garrisons will I subdue, and write myself great lord of Africa. So from the east unto the furthest west shall Tamburlaine extend his puissant arm. The galleys and those pilling 18 brigandines that yearly sail to the Venetian Gulf and hover in the straits for Christians' wreck shall lie at anchor in the Isle of Sant until the Persian fleet and men of war, sailing along the Oriental Sea, have fetched about the Indian continent, even from Persepolis to Mexico, and thence unto the Straits of Gibraltar, where they shall meet and join their force in one, keeping in awe the Bay of Portingale and all the ocean by the British 184/27 shore, and by this means I'll win the world at last. Bajazeth, yet set a ransom on me, Tamburlaine. Tamburlaine, what, think'st thou, Tamburlaine esteems thy gold? I'll make the kings of India, ere I die, offer their minds, to sue for peace, to me, and dig for treasure to appease my wrath. Or rather, come, bind them both, and one lead in the Turkis let my love's maid lead away. Bind them, the Dakwai her time is that most above, or intentions. Bajazeth, villains, dare you touch my sacred arms? O Mahomet, O sleepy Mahomet. Zabina, O cursed Mahomet, that makest us thus, the slaves to Scythians rude and barbarous. Tamburlaine, come, bring them in, and for this happy conquest, triumph, and solemnize a martial 185 best time. Feast. Dar exeunt. Act IV. Enter the Soldan of Egypt, Capellan, lords, and a messenger. Soldan, awake, ye men of Memphis, 418-6, hear the clang of Scythian trumpets, hear the basilisks, 118-7. One os all one, shake Damascus's turrets down. The rogue of Volga holds Xenocrat, the Soldan's daughter, for his concubine, and, with a troop of thieves and vagabonds, hath spread his colors to our high disgrace, while you, faint-hearted base Egyptians, lie slumbering on the flowery banks of Nile, as crocodiles that unaffrighted rest, while thundering cannons rattle on their skins. Messenger. Nay, mighty Soldan, did your greatness see the frowning looks of fiery Tamburlaine, that with his terror and imperious eyes commands the hearts of his associates, it might amaze your royal majesty. Soldan, villain, I tell thee, were that Tamburlaine. As monstrous 88-9 as Gorgon prince of hell, the Soldan would not start a foot from him, but speak, what power hath he? Messenger. Mighty lord, 300,000 men in armor clad, upon their prancing steeds, disdainfully, with wanton paces trampling on the ground. 500,000 footmen threatening shot, shaking their swords, their spears, and iron bills, environing their standard round, that stood. As bristle-pointed as a thorny wood, their warlike engines and munition exceed the forces of their martial men. Soldan. Nay, could their numbers countervail the stars, or ever drizzling 1T99 drops of April showers, or withered leaves that autumn shaketh down, yet would the Soldan by his conquering power so scatter and consume them in his rage, that not a man should 9T9D live to rue their fall. Capolin, so might your highness, had you time to sort your fighting men and raise your royal host, but Tamburlaine by expedition advantage takes of your unreadiness. Soldan, let him take all the advantages he can, were all the world conspired to fight for him. Nay, were he devil might 19-1, as he is no man, yet in revenge of fair Xenocrat, whom he detaineth in despite of us, this arm should send him down to Erebus, to shroud his shame in darkness of the night. Messenger, pleaseth your mightiness to understand, his resolution far exceedeth all. The first day when he pitcheth down his tents, white is their hue, and on his silver crest a snowy feather spangled white he bears, to signify the mildness of his mind, that, satiate with spoil, refuseth blood. But when Aurora mounts the second time, as red as scarlet is his furniture, then must his kindled wrath be quenched with blood, not sparing any that can manage arms. But if these threats move not submission, black are his colors, black pavilion, his spear, his shield, his horse, his armor, plumes, and jetty feathers, menace death and hell. Without respect of sex, degree, or age, he raiseth all his foes with fire and sword. Soldan, merciless villain, peasant, ignorant of lawful arms or martial discipline, pillage and murder are his usual trades. The slave usurps the glorious name of war. See Capolin, the fair Arabian king, 19-2, that has been disappointed by this slave of my fair daughter and his princely love, may have fresh warning to go war with us, and be revenged for her disparagement. Exeunt, exeunt, I knew, within does. Scene ei. Enter Tamburlaine, to shells, Theridamas, Usumkasane, Xenocrate, Anipe, two Moors, drawing Bajazeth in a cage, and Zabina following him. Tamburlaine, bring out my footstool. They take Bajazeth out of the cage. Why, and dies, or of a harbor and the Morocco bowls. Bajazeth, ye holy priests of heavenly Mahomet, that, sacrificing, slice and cut your flesh, staining his altars with your purple blood, make heaven to frown, and every fixed star to suck up poison from the Moorish fens, and pour it, 19-3, in this glorious tyrant's throat. Tamburlaine, the chiefest god, first mover of that spear enchased with thousands ever-shining lamps, will sooner burn the glorious frame of heaven than it should, Sashin and 19-4, so conspire my overthrow. But, villain, thou that wishest this time 5 to me, fall prostrate on the low disdainful earth, and be the footstool of great Tamburlaine, that I may rise into 196 and my royal throne. Bajazeth. First shalt thou rip my bowels with thy sword, and sacrifice my heart, 19:7, to death and hell, before I yield to such a slavery. Tamburlaine. Base villain, vassal, slave to Tamburlaine, unworthy to embrace or touch the ground, that bears the honor of my royal weight, stoop, villain, stoop, 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 stoop. Suntunate it for so, he bids, bat may command thee piecemeal to be torn, or scattered like the lofty cedar trees, struck with the voice of thundering Jupiter. Bajazeth. Then, as I look down to the damned fiends, look on me, and thou, dread god of hell, with ebon scepter strike this hateful earth, and make it swallow both of us at once. Tamburlaine gets up on him into his chair. One my just defined. Tamburlaine. Now clear the triple region of the air, and let the majesty of heaven behold, their scourge and terror tread on emperors. Smile, stars that reigned at my nativity, and dim the brightness of your un-99. Neighbor lamps, disdain to borrow light of Cynthia. For I, the chiefest lamp of all the earth, first rising in the east with mild aspect, but fixed now in the meridian line, will send up fire to your turning spears, and cause the sun to borrow light of you. My sword struck fire from his coat of steel, even in Bithynia, when I took this Turk, as when a fiery exhalation, wrapped in the bowels of a freezing cloud, fighting for passage, makes the welkin crack, and casts a flash of lightning to 200, the earth, well. But, ere I march to wealthy Persia, or leave Damascus and the Bitrium fields, as was the fame of Clemena's brain-sick son, that almost brent 201, the axle-tree of heaven, so shall our swords, our lances, and our shot fill all the air with fiery meteors. Then, when the sky shall wax as red as blood, it shall be said I made it red myself, to make me think of naught but blood and war. Zabina, unworthy king, that by thy cruelty unlawfully usurps the Persian seat, darst thou, that never saw an emperor, before thou met my husband in the field, being thy captive, thus abuse his state, keeping his kingly body in a cage, that roofs of golden sun, bright palaces, should have prepared to entertain his grace, and treading him beneath thy loathsome feet, whose feet the kings 202 of Africa have kissed. Techelles, you must devise some torment worse, my lord, to make these captives rein their lavish tongues. Tamburlaine, Xenocrate, look better to your slave. Xenocrate, she is my handmaid slave, and she shall look that these abuses flow not from 203, her tongue. Hor, or don, tina, from tine. Hor, or, for tongue, satire. Anipe, let these be warnings then, for you, 204, my slave, how you abuse the person of the king, or else I swear to have you whipped stark naked, 205. Bajazeth, great Tamburlaine, great in my overthrow, ambitious pride, shall make thee fall as low, for treading on the back of Bajazeth, that should be horsed on 4 mighty kings. Tamburlaine, thy names and titles and thy dignities, 206, are fled from Bajazeth, and remain with me that will maintain it, against a world of kings. Alvers watchta, Alverdi of the Hieris in Shipper, quote of the Hieris and my names and titles, and hold the Hieris and Syrias. They put him into the cage. Bajazeth, is this a place for mighty Bajazeth? Confusion, light on him that helps thee thus. Tamburlaine, There, whiles 207 he lives, shall Bajazeth be kept, and, where I go, be thus in triumph drawn, and thou, his wife, shalt 208 feed him with the scraps. My servitors shall bring thee from my board, for he that gives him other food than this shall sit by him, and starve to death himself. This is my mind, and I will have it so. Not all the kings and emperors of the earth, if they would lay their crown before my feet, shall ransom him or take him from his cage. The ages that shall talk of Tamburlaine, even from this day to Plato's wondrous year, shall talk how I have handled Bajazeth. These Moors, that drew him from Bithynia to fair Damascus, where we now remain, shall lead him with us wheresoe'er we go. 12. And my loving followers, now may we see Damascus's lofty towers, like to the shadows of pyramids, that with their beauties grace 209, the Memphian fields. The golden stature, 210, of their feathered bird, 211, that spreads her wings upon the city walls, shall not defend it from our battering shot. The townsmen mask in silk and cloth of gold, and every house is as a treasury. The men, the treasure, and the town are 212 ours. Theridamas, your tents of white now pitched before the gates, and gentle flags of amity displayed, I doubt not, but the governor will yield, offering Damascus to your majesty. Tamburlaine, so shall he have his life and all the rest, but, if he stay until the bloody flag be once advanced on my vermilion tent, he dies, and those that kept us out so long. And, when they see me march in black array, with mournful streamers hanging down their heads, were in that city all the world contained, not one should scape, but perish by our swords. Xenocrate, yet would you have some pity for my sake, because it is my country 213, and my father's. Tamburlaine, not for the world, Xenocrate, if I have sworn. Come, bring in the Turk. Oind, exeunt. Scene, ei. Enter Soldan, king of Arabia, 214, perfor time, my, or H-ast of Colin, and soldiers, with streaming colors. Soldan, methinks we march as Meleager did, environed with brave Argolian knights, to chase the savage Caledonian. Or 215, Boar, or Cephalus, with lusty 256. Theban youths, against the wolf, that angry Themis sent to waste and spoil the sweet Aonian fields. A monster of 500,000 heads, compact of rapine, piracy, and spoil, the scum of men, the hate and scourge of God, raves in Egyptia, and annoyeth us, my lord, it is the bloody Tamburlaine, a sturdy felon, and 217. To tame the pride of this presumptuous beast, join your Arabians with the Soldan's power. Let us unite our royal bands in one, and hasten to remove Damascus's siege. It is a blemish to the majesty and high estate of mighty emperors that such a base usurping vagabond should brave a king, or wear a princely crown. King of Arabia, renowned D. 218. Soldan, have you lately heard the overthrow of mighty Bajazeth about the confines of Bithynia, the slavery wherewith he persecutes the noble Turk and his great empress? Soldan, I have, and sorrow for his bad success, but, noble lord of great Arabia, be so persuaded that the Soldan is no more dismayed with tidings of his fall than in the haven when the pilot stands, and views a stranger's ship rent in the winds, and shivered against a craggy rock. 122, one section of Alding in a Bigoride, 122 in the winds. Yet in compassion to his wretched state, a sacred vow to heaven and him I make, confirming it with Ibis's holy name. 219. To feed his lust. King of Arabia, let grief and fury hasten on revenge, let Tamburlaine for his offences feel. Such plagues as heaven and we can pour on him, I long to break my spear upon his crest, and prove the weight of his victorious arm, for fame, I fear, hath been too prodigal, in sounding through the world his partial praise. Soldan, Capellan, hast thou surveyed our powers? Capellan, great emperors of Egypt and Arabia, the number of your hosts united is 150,000 horse, 200,000 foot, brave men at arms, courageous, and 221, full of hardiness, as frolic as the hunters in the chase of savage beasts amid the desert woods. King of Arabia, my mind presageth fortunate success, and, Tamburlaine, my spirit doth foresee the utter ruin of thy men and thee. Soldan, then rear your standards, let your sounding drums direct our soldiers to Damascus's walls. Now Tamburlaine, the mighty Soldan, comes, and leads with him the great Arabian king, to Dimni baseness and 222. Obscurity, famous for nothing but for theft and spoil, to raise and scatter thy inglorious crew of Scythians and slavish Persians. Exeunt. Not two. Scene IV. A banquet set out, and to it come Tamburlaine all in scarlet, Xenocrate, Theridamas, Techelles, Usumkasane, and Bajazeth, drawn in his cage Zabina, and others. Tamburlaine, now hang our bloody colors by Damascus, reflexing hues of blood upon their heads, while they walk quivering on their city walls, half dead for fear, before they feel my wrath. Then let us freely banquet and carouse full bowls of wine unto the god of war. That means to fill your helmets full of gold, and make Damascus's spoils as rich to you as was to Jason Colchos's golden fleece. Bajazeth. Such a stomach, cruel Tamburlaine, as I could willingly feed upon thy blood-raw heart. Tamburlaine. Nay, thine own is easier to come by. Pluck out that, and 'twill serve thee and thy wife. Well, Xenocrate, Techelles, and the rest, fall to your victuals. Bajazeth. Fall to, and never may your meat digest. Ye furies that can mask 223 invisible, dive to the bottom of Avernus's pool, and in your hands bring hellish poison up, and squeeze it in the cup of Tamburlaine. Or, winged snakes of Lerna, cast your stings, and leave your venoms in this tyrant's dish. Zabina, and may this banquet prove as ominous as Prodnes to these adulterous Thracian king, that fed upon the substance of his child. Xenocrate. My lord, 224, how can you suffer these outrageous curses by these slaves of yours? Tamburlaine. To let them see, divine Xenocrate, I glory in the curses of my foes, having the power from the empyreal heaven to turn them all upon their proper heads. Techelles. I pray you, give them leave, madam, this speech is a goodly refreshing for them. 225. First 225. Theridamas. But, if his highness would let them be fed, it would do them more good. Tamburlaine. Sirrah, why fall you not to? Are you so daintily brought up, you cannot eat your own flesh? Bajazeth. First. Legions of devils shall tear thee in pieces. Usumkasane. Villain, knowest thou to whom thou speakest? Tamburlaine. Oh, let him alone. Whore. Here, 226. Eat, sir, take it from 227. My sword's point, or I'll thrust it to thy heart. Bajazeth takes the food and stamps upon it, all distancered, Amuna 70. Theridamas. He stamps it under his feet, my lord. My lord? Tamburlaine. Take it up, villain, and eat it, or I will make thee slice 228, the bronze of thy arms into carbonados and eat them. Usum Kasane. Nay, 'twere better he killed his wife, and then she shall be sure not to be starved, and he be provided for a month's victual beforehand. Tamburlaine. Here is my dagger, dispatch her while she is fat, for if she live but a while longer, she will fall 229 into a consumption with fretting, and then she will not be worth the eating. Theridamas. Dost thou think that Mahomet will suffer this? To shells, 'tis like he will, when he cannot let 230 it. Tamburlaine. Go to, fall to your meat. What, not a bit. Belike he hath not been watered today, give him some drink. They give Bajazeth water to drink, and he flings it on the ground. Fast and welcome, sir, while 231, hunger make you eat. Ah, how now, Xenocrat? Does not the Turk and his wife make a goodly show at a banquet? Xenocrate. Yes, my lord. Theridamas. Methinks 'tis a great deal better than a consort 232 of music. Tamburlaine. Yet music would do well to cheer up Xenocrate. Pray thee, tell why art thou so sad? If thou wilt have a song, the Turk shall strain his voice, but why is it? Xenocrate. My lord, to see my father's town besieged, the country wasted where myself was born, how can it but afflict my very soul? If any love remain in you, my lord, or if my love unto your majesty may merit favor at your highness' hands, then raise your siege from fair Damascus's walls, and with my father take a friendly truce. Tamburlaine. Xenocrate. Were Egypt Jove's own land, yet would I with my sword make Jove to stoop. I will confute those blind geographers that make a triple region in the world, excluding regions which I mean to trace, and with this pen 2A33 reduce them to a map, calling the provinces, cities, and towns, after my name and thine, Xenocrat. Here at Damascus will I make the point, that shall begin the perpendicular. And wouldst thou have me by thy father's love, with such a loss? Tell me, Xenocrate. Xenocrate. Honor still wait on happy Tamburlaine, yet give me leave to plead for him, my lord. Tamburlaine. Content thyself, his person shall be safe, and all the friends of fair Xenocrate, if with their lives they will be pleased to yield, or may be forced to make me emperor, for Egypt and Arabia must be mine. Bajazeth. My empty stomach full of idle heat draws bloody humors from my feeble parts, preserving life by hastening to A24. Cruel death, my veins are pale, my sinews hard and dry, my joints benumbed, unless I eat, I die. Zabina. Eat. Bajazeth. Let us live in spite of them, looking some happy power will pity and enlarge us. Tamburlaine. Here, Turk, wilt thou have a clean trencher? Bajazeth. I, tyrant, and more meat. Why in Fidiuscenes or Tubais? Tamburlaine. Soft, sir, you must be dieted. Too much eating will make you surfeit. Theridamas. So it would, my lord, specially 235, having so small a walk and so little exercise. A second course is brought in of crowns. Tamburlaine. Theridamas, to shells and Kasane, here are the cates you desire to finger, are they not? Theridamas. Ay, my lord, but none save kings must feed with these. To shells, 'tis enough for us to see them, and for Tamburlaine only to enjoy them. Tamburlaine. Well, here is now to the Soldan of Egypt, the king of Arabia, and the governor of Damascus. Now, take these 3 crowns and pledge me, my contributory kings. I crown you here, Theridamas, king of Argier, Tishelas, king of Fez, and Usum Kasane, king of Morocco, 236. How say you to this, Turk? These are not your contributory kings. Bajazeth. Nor shall they long be thine, I warrant them. Tamburlaine. Kings of Argier, Morocco, and Fez, you that have marched with happy Tamburlaine. Wade, as far as from the frozen plage 237 pointy of heaven unto the watery morning's ruddy bower, and thence by land unto the torrid zone, deserve these titles I endow you with, by valor 238, and by magnanimity. Your birth shall be no blemish to your fame, for virtue is the fount whence honor springs, and they are worthy, she investeth kings. Theridamas, and, since your highness hath so well vouchsafed, if we deserve them not with higher meeds than erst our states and actions have retained, take them away again, quote, all 239, and make us slaves. Tamburlaine. Well said, Theridamas, when holy fates shall stablish me in strong Egyptia, we mean to travel to the Antarctic pole, conquering the people underneath our feet, and be renowned, due 240, as never emperors were. Xenocrate, I will not crown thee yet, until with greater honors I be graced. Ex ant ond, the Derbys, our own, on stage. Act V. Scene 1. Enter the governor of Damascus 241 with 3 or 4 citizens and 4 virgins with branches of laurel in their hands. Governor, still doth this man, or rather god of war, batter our walls and beat our turrets down, and, to resist with longer stubbornness, or hope of rescue from the Soldan's power, were but to bring our wilful overthrow, and make us desperate of our threatened lives. We see his tents have now been altered, with terrors to the last and cruelst hue, his coal-black colors everywhere advanced, threaten our city with a general spoil, and, if we should, with common rights of arms, offer our safeties to his clemency, I fear the custom proper to his sword, which he observes as parcel of his fame, intending so to terrify the world, by any innovation or remorse 242, will never be dispensed with till our deaths. Therefore, for these our harmless virgins' sakes 2043, whose honors and whose lives rely on him, let us have hope that their unspotted prayers, their blubbered 244T cheeks, and hearty humble moans will melt his fury into some remorse, and use us like a loving conqueror. First Virgin. If humble sweet or imprecations, uttered with tears of wretchedness and blood, shed from the heads and hearts of all our sex, some made your wives, and some your children, might have entreated your obdurate breasts to entertain some care 246 of our securities, whiles only danger beat upon our walls. These more than dangerous warrants of our death had never been erected as they be, nor you depend on such weak helps 247 as we. Governor, well, lovely virgins, think our country's care our love of honor, loath to be enthralled to foreign powers and rough imperious yokes, would not with too much cowardice or 248 fear, before all hope of rescue were denied, submit yourselves and us to servitude. Therefore, in that your safeties and our own, your honors, liberties, and lives were weighed, in equal care and balance with our own, endure as we the malice of our stars, the wrath of Tamburlaine, and power 249. Or be the means the overweighing heavens have kept to qualify these hot extremes, and bring us pardon in your cheerful looks. Second Virgin, then here, before the majesty of heaven, and holy patrons of Egyptia, with knees and heart submissive, we entreat grace to our words and pity to our looks, that this device may prove propitious, and through the eyes and ears of Tamburlaine convey events of mercy to his heart. Grant that these signs of victory we yield may bind the temples of his conquering head, to hide the folded furrows of his brows, and shadow his displeased countenance with happy looks of ruth and lenity. Leave us, my lord, and loving countrymen, what simple virgins may persuade, we will. Governor, Farewell, sweet virgins, on whose safe return depends our city, liberty, and lives. Exeunt all except the virgins, knees today, once the perchance and the moosed. Enter Tamburlaine, all in black and very melancholy, to shells, Theridamas, usum cassine, with others. Tamburlaine, what? Are the turtles frayed out of their nests? Alas, poor fools, must you be first shall feel the sworn destruction of Damascus. They knew 250's my custom. Could they not as well have sent ye out when first my milk-white flags, through which sweet mercy through her gentle beams, reflexed 251 them on their 252 disdainful eyes, as 2532 disdainful eyes, as 253t now, when fury and incensed hate fling slaughtering terror from my coal-black tents, wells for truth's submission, 25-5 comes too late. First Virgin, most happy King and Emperor of the earth, image of honor and nobility, for whom the powers divine have made the world, and on whose throne the holy graces sit, in whose sweet person is comprised the sum of nature's skill and heavenly majesty. Pity our plights. Oh, pity poor Damascus. One hru, one no pascus. Pity old age, within whose silver hairs honor and reverence evermore have reigned. Pity the marriage bed, where many a lord, in prime and glory of his loving joy, embraceth now with tears of ruth and 256 blood the jealous body of his fearful wife, whose cheeks and hearts so punished with conceit. 257. To think thy puissant never-stayed arm will part their bodies, ora, and prevent their souls from heavens of comfort, yet their age might bear. Now wax all pale and withered to the death, as well for grief, our ruthless governor hath 258. Thus refused the mercy of thy hand, whose scepter angels kiss and furies dread, as for their liberties, their loves, or lives. Oh, then, for these, and such as we ourselves, for us, for infants, and for all our bloods, that never nourished, 259. Fought against thy rule, pity, oh pity, sacred emperor, the prostrate service of this wretched town, and take in sign thereof this gilded wreath, whereto each man of rule hath given his hand, and wished, 266, iders, first of wars, our braiding subjects, happy means, to be investors of thy royal brows, even with the true Egyptian diadem. Tamburlaine, virgins, in vain you labor to prevent that which mine honor swears shall be performed. Behold my sword, what see you at the point? First Virgin, nothing but fear and fatal steel, my lord. Tamburlaine, your fearful minds are thick and misty then, for there sits death, there sits imperious 261, death, keeping his circuit by the slicing edge. But I am pleased you shall not see him there. He now is seated on my horsemen's spears, and on their points his fleshless body feeds. I shall, Stechels, straight go charge a few of them, to charge these dames and show my servant, Death, sitting in scarlet on their armed spears. Virgins, oh, pity us! Ass and squote, oh, water too! Tamburlaine, away with them, I say, and shew them death. The virgins are taken out by Deshels and others. I will not spare these proud Egyptians, nor change my martial observations, for all the wealth of Gihon's golden waves, or for the love of Venus, would she leave the angry god of arms and lie with me? They have refused the offer of their lives, and know my customs are as peremptory as wrathful planets, death or destiny. Re-enter Techeles. What? Have your horsemen shown the virgins? Death. Techeles. They have, my lord, and on Damascus's walls have hoisted up their slaughtered carcasses. Tamburlaine. a sight as baneful to their souls, I think, as are Thessalian drugs or Mithridate. But go, my lords, put the rest to the sword. Exeunt all, except Tamburlaine, or Newsies, meaning, or, for billing Estria. Ah, fair Xenocrate, divine Xenocrate, fair is too foul an epithet for thee, that in thy passion 262 for thy country's love and fear to see thy kingly father's harm, with hair dishevelled wipes thy watery cheeks, or Rescas or Perstain, and, like to Flora in her morning's pride, shaking her silver tresses in the air, rains down the earth resolved 263 pearl in showers, and sprinklest sapphires on thy shining face, where beauty, mother to the muses, sits, and comments volumes with her ivory pen, taking instructions from thy flowing eyes. Eyes, when that Abena steps to heaven, 264. In silence of thy solemn evening's walk, making the mantle of the richest night, the moon, the planets, and the meteors, light. There angels in their crystal armors fight 265. A doubtful battle with my tempted thoughts. For Egypt's freedom and the Soldan's life, his life that so consumes Xenocrat, whose sorrows lay more siege unto my soul than all my army to Damascus's walls. And neither Persia's 266 sovereign nor the Turk troubled my senses with conceit of foil, so much by much as doth Xenocrate. What is beauty, saith my sufferings then, if all the pens that ever poets held had fed the feeling of their master's thoughts, and every sweetness that inspired their hearts, their minds, and muses on admired themes, if all the heavenly quintessence they still 267 from their immortal flowers of poesy, wherein, as in a mirror, we perceive the highest reaches of a human wit, if these had made one poem's period, and all combined in beauty's worthiness, yet should there hover in their restless heads one thought, one grace, one wonder, at the least, which into words no virtue can digest. But how unseemly is it for my sex, my discipline of arms and chivalry, my nature, and the terror of my name, to harbor thoughts effeminate and faint, save only that in beauty's just applause, with whose instinct the soul of man is touched, and every warrior that is rapt with love, of fame, of valor, and of victory, must needs have beauty beat on his conceits. I thus conceiving, A268, and subduing both, that which hath stooped the chiefest of the gods, even from the fiery spangled veil of heaven, to feel the lovely warmth of shepherds' flames, and mask in cottages of strowed reeds, shall give the world to note for all my birth. That virtue solely is the sum of glory, and fashions men with true nobility, whose, within there, enter attendants. Hath Bajazeth been fed today? Attend. A 269, aye, my lord. Tamburlaine, bring him forth, and let us know if the town be ransacked. Exeunt, attendants HID, was the Dacian as what to do in ages. Enter Teshels, their Adamas, Usumkasane, and others. Teshels, the town is ours, my lord, and fresh supply of conquest and of spoil is offered us. Tamburlaine, that's well, Teshels. What's the news? Teshels, the Soldan and the Arabian king together march on us with 270, such eager violence as if there were no way but one with us. All's 271. Tamburlaine, no more there is not, I warrant thee, Teshels. Attendants bring in Bajazeth in his cage, followed by Zabina. Exeunt attendants. Teradamas, we know the victory is ours, my lord, but let us save the reverend Soldan's life, for fair Xenocrat that so laments his state. Tamburlaine, that will we chiefly see unto, Saradamas, for sweet Xenocrat, whose worthiness deserves a conquest over every heart. And now, my footstool, if I lose the field, you hope of liberty and restitution? Here let him stay, my masters, from the tents, till we have made us ready for the field. Pray for us, Bajazeth, we are going. Exeunt, all except Bajazeth and Zabina. Exazeth and Zabina. Bajazeth, go, never to return with victory. Millions of men encompass thee about, and gore thy body with as many wounds. Sharp forked arrows light upon thy horse. Furies from the black Cocytus' lake break up the earth, and with their firebrands enforce thee run upon the baneful pikes. Volleys of shot pierce through thy charmed skin, and every bullet dipped in poisoned drugs. Or roaring cannons sever all thy joints, making thee mount as high as eagles soar. Sabina, let all the swords and lances in the field stick in his breast as in their proper rooms. At every pore 272 let blood come dropping forth, that lingering pains may massacre his heart, and madness send his damned soul to hell. Bajazeth, ah, fair Zabina, we may curse his power, the heavens may frown, the earth for anger quake. But such a star hath influence in 273, his sword. As rules the skies and countermands the gods, more than Cimmerian Styx or destiny. And then shall we in this detested guise, with shame, with hunger, and with horror, stay, 274. Griping our bowels with retort 275 thoughts, and have no hope to end our ecstasies. Zabina. Then is there left no Mahomet, no God, no fiend, no fortune, nor no hope of end to our infamous, monstrous slaveries. Gape, earth, and let the fiends infernal view a 276 hell as hopeless and as full of fear as are the blasted banks of Erebus, where shaking ghosts with ever howling groans hover about the ugly ferryman to get a passage to Elysium. Why should we live? Why should we live? In fortes, why live we, Bajazeth, and build up nests so high within the region of the air, by living long in this oppression, that all the world will see and laugh to scorn the former triumphs of our mightiness in this obscure infernal servitude? Bajazeth, O life, more loathsome to my vexed thoughts, 278, than noisome parbrake, 279. Of the Stygian snakes which fills the nooks of hell with standing air, infecting all the ghosts with cureless griefs. O dreary engines of my loathed sight, that see my crown, my honor, and my name, thrust under yoke and thraldom of a thief, why feed ye still on day's accursed beams, and sink not quite into my tortured soul? You see my wife, my queen and empress, brought up and propped by the hand of fame, queen of 15 contributory queens, now thrown to rooms of black abjection, 280, smeared with blots of basest drudgery, and villainous 281, to shame, disdain, and misery. Accursed Bajazeth, whose words of ruth, 282, that would, with pity, cheer Zabina's heart, and make our souls resolve 283 in ceaseless tears. Sharp hunger bites upon and gripes the root, from whence the issues of my thoughts do break. O poor Zabina! O my queen, my queen, my queen! Fetch me some water for my burning breast, to cool and comfort me with longer date, that, in the shortened sequel of my life, I may pour forth my soul into thine arms with words of love, whose moaning intercourse hath hitherto been stayed with wrath and hate. Zabina, sweet Bajazeth, I will prolong thy life, as long as any blood or spark of breath can quench or cool the torments of my grief. Exit 2. Bajazeth, Now, Bajazeth, abridge thy baneful days, and beat the 285 brains out of thy conquered head, since other means are all forbidden me, that may be ministers of my decay. O highest lamp of ever living, 286. Jove, accursed day, infected with my griefs, heed now thy stained face in endless night, and shut the windows of the lightsome heavens. Let ugly darkness, with her rusty coach, angered with tempests, wrapped in pitchy clouds, smother the earth with never-fading mists, and let her horses from their nostrils breathe rebellious winds and dreadful thunderclaps, that in this terror Tamburlaine may live, and my pinned soul, resolved in liquid air, may still excruciate his tormented thoughts. Then let the stony dart of senseless cold pierce through the center of my withered heart, and make a passage for my loathed life. He brains himself against the cage. IMA, also C4. What MMH the 2 bad, 17 and H bad, or Steens was about of restick in history in hostraditions, on 3 made 70s, for a 17 for today. Re-enter Zabina. Zabina, what do mine eyes behold? My husband dead, his skull all riven in twain, his brains dashed out, the brains of Bajazeth my lord and sovereign, O Bajazeth my husband and my lord, O Bajazeth, O Turk, O emperor, give him his liquor, not I, bring milk and fire, and my blood I bring him again. Tear me in pieces, give 287, me the sword, with a ball of wildfire upon it. Down with him, go to my child, away, 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 away. Ah, save that infant, save him, save him, save him. Fie, even I speak to her. 288. To fling the meat in his face. Tamburlaine, Tamburlaine, let the soldiers be buried. Whole, death, Tamburlaine, 289, shoe 89, whole. Well, make ready my coach, 290, my chair, my jewels, I come, I come, I come. And 291. She runs against the cage, and brains herself. Enter Xenocrate, with Anipe. Xenocrate. Wretched Xenocrate, that lifts to see Damascus's walls dyed with Egyptians 292. Blood, thy father's subjects and thy countrymen, the 293's streets strode with dissevered joints of men, and wounded bodies gasping yet for life. But most accursed, to see the sun-bright troop of heavenly virgins and unspotted maids, whose looks might make the angry god of arms, to break his sword and mildly treat of love, on horsemen's lances to be hoisted up, and guiltlessly endure a cruel death. For every fell and stout Tartarian steed, that stamped on others with their thundering hooves, when all their riders charged their quivering spears, began to check the ground and rein themselves, gazing upon the beauty of their looks. Ah, Tamburlaine, wert thou the cause of this, that term'st Xenocrate thy dearest love? Whose lives were dearer to Xenocrate than her own life, or aught save thine own love? But see, another bloody spectacle. Ah, wretched eyes, the enemies of my heart, how are ye glutted with these grievous objects, and tell my soul more tales of bleeding ruth? Anipe, no breath, nor sense, nor motion in them both. Ah, madam, this their slavery hath enforced, and ruthless cruelty of Tamburlaine. Xenocrate, earth, cast up fountains from thy 294 entrails, and wet thy cheeks for their untimely deaths, shake with their weight in sign of fear and grief. Blush heaven, that gave them honor at their birth, and let them die a death so barbarous, or God, those that are proud of fickle empery, and place their chiefest good in earthly pomp, behold the Turk and his great empress. Ah, Tamburlaine, my love, sweet Tamburlaine, that fight'st for scepters and for slippery crowns, behold the Turk and his great empress. Thou that, in conduct of thy happy stars, sleep'st every night with conquest on thy brows, and yet wouldst shun the wavering turns of war. 295. I fear and feeling of the like distress, behold the Turk and his great empress. Ah, mighty Jove and holy Mahomet, pardon my love. Oh, pardon his contempt of earthly fortune and respective pity, and let not conquest, ruthlessly pursued, be equally against his life incensed, in this great Turk and hapless empress. And pardon me, that was not moved with ruth to see them live so long in misery. Ah, what may chance to thee, Zenocrate? A nippy, madam, content yourself and be resolved. Your love hath fortune so at his command that she shall stay and turn her wheel no more, as long as life maintains his mighty arm that fights for honor to adorn your head. Enter Philemus. Zenocrate. What other heavy news now brings Philemus? Philemus, madam, your father and the Arabian king, the first effector of your excellence, come. 296. Now, as Turnus gainst Aeneas did, armed. 297, with lance into the Egyptian fields, ready for battle, gainst my lord the king. Zenocrate, now shame and duty, love and fear present 1,000 sorrows to my martyred soul. Whom should I wish the fatal victory, when my poor pleasures are divided thus, and racked by duty from my cursed heart? My father and my first betrothed love must fight against my life and present love, wherein the change I use condemns my faith, and makes my deeds infamous through the world. But, as the gods, to end the Trojans' toil, prevented Turnus of Lavinia, and fatally enriched Aeneas's love, so, for a final 298 issue to my griefs, to pacify my country and my love, must Tamburlaine by their resistless powers, with virtue of a gentle victory, conclude a league of honor to my hope. Then, as the powers divine have preordained, with happy safety of my father's life, send like defense of fair Arabia. They sound to the battle within, and Tamburlaine enjoys the victory, after which, the king of Arabia 299, on Tours wounded. King of Arabia, what cursed power guides the murdering hands of this infamous tyrant soldiers, that no escape may save their enemies, nor fortune keep themselves from victory? Lie down, Arabia, wounded to the death, and let Zenocrate's fair eyes behold, that, as for her, thou bear'st these wretched arms, even so, for her thou diest in these arms, leaving thy 300 blood for witness of thy love. Zenocrate, too dear a witness for such love, my lord. Behold Zenocrate, the cursed object whose fortunes never mastered her griefs. Behold her wounded in conceit, 3-1, for thee, as much as thy fair body is for me. King of Arabia, then shall I die with full contented heart, having beheld the divine Zenocrate, whose sight with joy would take away my life, as now it bringeth sweetness to my wound, if I had not been wounded as I am. Ah, that the deadly pangs I suffer now would lend an hour's license to my tongue, to make discourse of some sweet accidents have chanced thy merits in this worthless bondage, and that I might be privy to the state of thy deserved contentment and thy love. But, making now a virtue of thy sight, to drive all sorrow from my fainting soul, since death denies me further cause of joy, deprived of care, my heart with comfort dies, since thy desired hand shall close mine eyes. Harriet, also of Dies and Annie fail. Re-enter Tamburlaine, leading the Soldan, Techelles, Theridamas, Usumcasane, with others. Tamburlaine, Come, happy father of Zenocrat, a title higher than thy Soldan's name. Though my right hand have 302 thus enthralled thee, thy princely daughter here shall set thee free, she that hath calmed the fury of my sword, which had ere this been bathed in streams of blood as vast and deep as Euphrates 303 or Nile. Zenocrate, O sight thrice! Welcome to my joyful soul, to see the king, my father, issue safe from dangerous battle of my conquering love. Saldan, well met, my only dear Zenocrate, though with the loss of Egypt and my crown. Tamburlaine, 'twas I, my lord, that gat the victory, and therefore grieve not at your overthrow, since I shall render all into your hands, and add more strength to your dominions than ever yet confirmed the Egyptian crown. The god of war resigns his room to me, meaning to make me general of the world. Jove, viewing me in arms, looks pale and wan, fearing my power should 304 pull him from his throne. Where'er I come, the fatal sisters sweat, 305, and grisly death, by running to and fro, to do their ceaseless homage to my sword. And here in Afric, where it seldom rains, since I arrived with my triumphant host, have swelling clouds, drawn from wide-gaping 306 quest wounds, been oft resolved a 307 in bloody purple showers, a meteor that might terrify the earth and make it quake at every drop it drinks. Millions 38 of souls sit on the banks of Styx, waiting the back return of Charon's boat. Hell and Elysium, 309, swarm with ghosts of men that I have sent from sundry foughten fields to spread my fame through hell and up to heaven, and see, my lord, a sight of strange import. Emperors and kings lie breathless at my feet. The Turk and his great empress, as it seems, left to themselves while we were at the fight, have desperately dispatched their slavish lives. With them Arabia too hath left his life, all sites of power to grace my victory. And such are objects fit for Tamburlaine, wherein, as in a mirror, may be seen his honor, that consists in shedding blood, when men presume to manage arms with him. Soldan, mighty hath God and Mahomet made thy hand, renowned at their T7, Tamburlaine, to whom all kings of force must yield their crowns and imperies, and I am pleased with this, my overthrow, if, as beseems a person of thy state, thou hast with honor us Zenocrate. Tamburlaine, her state and person want no pomp, you see, and for all blot of foul inchastity, I record 311 heaven, her heavenly self is clear. Then let me find no further time, 31-2, to grace. But here these kings that on my fortunes wait, and have been crowned for, proved worthiness, even by this hand that shall establish them, shall now, adjoining all their hands with mine, invest her here, the 3013, Queen of Persia. What saith the noble Soldan and Zenocrat? Soldan, I yield with thanks and protestations of endless honor to thee for her love. Tamburlaine, then doubt I not a 314, but fair Zenocrat will soon consent to satisfy us both. Zenocrate, else 3015, should I much forget myself, my lord. Theridamas, then let us set the crown upon her head, that long hath lingered for so high a seat. To shells, my hand is ready to perform the deed, for now her marriage time shall work us rest. Osamkasane, and here's the crown, my lord, help set it on, 3 Burzin 16s. Tamburlaine, then sit thou down, divine Zenocrat, and here we crown thee Queen of Persia, and all the kingdoms and dominions that late the power of Tamburlaine subdued. As Juno, when the giants were suppressed, that darted mountains at her brother Jove, so looks my love, shadowing in her brows, triumphs and trophies for my victories, or, as Latona's daughter, bent to arms, adding more courage to my conquering mind. To gratify Theon, sweet Xenocrat, Egyptians, Moors, and men of Asia, from Barbary unto the western India, shall pay a yearly tribute to thy sire, and from the bounds of Afric to the banks of Ganges shall his mighty arm extend. And now, my lords and loving followers, that purchases kingdoms by your martial deeds, cast off your armor, put on scarlet robes, mount up your royal places of estate, environed with troops of noblemen, and there make laws to rule your provinces, hung up your weapons on Alcides' postas is lections. For Tamburlaine takes truce with all the world. I first betrothed love, Arabia, shall we with honor, as beseems, 317, entomb with this great Turk and his fair empress. Then, after all these solemn exequies, we will our rites 318 of marriage solemnize. Usint, us, and surd. Footnotes, and options as well-ins. Footnote 1. To the gentlemen readers and c. From the 8 Vo of 1592, in the 4-2s, this address is worded here and there differently. I have not thought it necessary to mark the vario lectiones of the worthy printer's composition, Instrupution. Footnote 2. Histories, i.e. dramas, so called, plays founded on history, or on history. Footnote 3. Fond, i.e. foolish. Sexing concerning the omissions here alluded to. Some remarks will be found in the account of Marlowe and his writings. Each point T1. The account of Marlowe and his writings is the introduction to this book of The Works of Christopher Marlowe. That is, the book from which this play has been transcribed. The following is from pages XB and XBI of that introduction. This tragedy, which was entered in the Stationer's Books, 14th August, 1590, AWA, and printed during the same year, has not come down to us in its original fullness, and probably we have no cause to lament the curtailments which it suffered from the publisher of the first edition. I have purposely, he says, omitted and left out some fond and frivolous gestures, digressing and, in my poor opinion, far unmeet for the matter, which I thought might seem more tedious unto the wise than any way else to be regarded, though haply they have been of some vain conceited fondlings greatly gaped at. What time they were shewed upon the stage in their graced deformities, nevertheless now to be mixtured in print with such matter of worth, it would prove a great disgrace to so honorable and stately a history. By the words, fond and frivolous gestures, we are to understand those of the clown, who very frequently figured, with more or less prominence, even in the most serious dramas of the time. The introduction of such buffooneries into tragedy acts Collitz is censured by Hall towards the conclusion of a passage which, as it mentions the Turkish Tamburlaine, would seem to be partly levelled at Marlowe and the Astors. One higher pitched doth set his soaring thought on crowned kings that fortune hath low brought, or some vipreared high aspiring swain, as it might be the Turkish Tamburlaine. Then weeneth he his base drink, drowned sprite, wrapped to the threefold loft of Highwin height, when he conceas vipon his feigned stage. The stalking steps of his great personage, graced with huff-cap terms and thundering threats that his poor hearer's hair quite viprite sets, are often is agreed. Now, least such frightful shows of fortune's fall, and blowdy tyrant's rage, should chance appall, the dead-stroke audience, midst the silent rout, comes leaping in a self misformed lout, and laughs and grins, and frames his mimic face, and Eustil straight into the prince's place. Then doth the theatre echo, all aloud with gladsome noise of that applauding crowd, a goodly hosh-posh, when vile recitings are matches D with monarchs and with mighty kings. But Hall's taste was more refined and classical than that of his age, and the success of Tamburlaine, in which the celebrated Elaine represented the hero, was adequate to the most sanguine expectations which its author could have formed. A ballad entitled The Story of Tamburlaine the Great, sans founded, I suppose, on Marlowe's play, was entered in the Stationer's Books, 5th Nov. 1594. And Ophir, or of the present volume, Saf, 4, of the present volume, cc. In Italy, at the commencement of the 18th century, and probably much later, it was not unusual to introduce the Doctor, Harlequin, Pantalone, and Coviello into deep tragedies. I have seen, says Addison, a translation of The Cid acted at Bologna which would never have taken had they not found a place in it for these buffoons. Remarks on several parts of Italy and sea. In the years 1701, 1702, 1702, 1703, p. 7014, feasteen 2, 70, fee time. D. Perhaps I ought to add that Marlowe was dead when, in 1597, the satire, from which these lines are quoted, was first given to the press. E. Fals Virgid, lib. I. Sat, 1602. H. F. C. Haywood's Prole, to our author's Jew of Malta, p. 142 of the present volume. E. See the project, Gutenberg. E. Text of the Jew of Malta. 1930. Footnote 4. Censures, i.e. judgments, opinions, ochti, or denchments. Footnote 5. Afric, so the 8vo, the 4-2, Africa, gen. 4. Footnote 6. There, old eds, his. Old, hides est. Footnote 7. Through, so the 4-2, the 8-vo-2, the 8-vo-turo, sturo. Footnote 8. Incivil, i.e. barbarous, so the 8-vo. So the 8-vo. 4 to VNC, twile. Y. Footnote 9. Incontinent, i.e. forthwith, immediately. Footnote 10. Chiefest, so the 8-va, so the 422, chief. Footnote 11. Route, i.e. crew, Footnote 12. Press, so the 8-vo, m for dabio. Footnote 13. U, so the 8-vo, no omitted in the 4-2, I da mm. Footnote 14. All, so the 4-2, aol, or ol, mitted in the 8-vo. Footnote 15. Mated, as e confounded, 1te confounded. Footnote 16. Pass not, i.e. care not, i.e. Hij, not. Footnote 17. Regiment, SSSSSS, rule, government. Footnote 18. Resolve, i.e. dissolve, so the 8-vo. And the 4-2 dissolve. 2. Footnote 19. Ships, so the 4-2. The 8-vo shippy, allow. 8-vivo shippy. Footnote 20. Pass, so the 8-vo. The 4-2, hast. Footnote 21. You, so the 8-vo, for. The 4-2, they. The 4-2, they. Footnote 22. Senius. Here both the old eds, Conorus and Conorus, crass. Footnote 23. States, i.e. noblemen, persons of rank, a.e. noble. Footnote 24. There, so the 8-vo, The 4-2, sour, sow, 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 sow. Footnote 25, and Persia. So the 8 vo, as to and of Persia, 4 monks, of, onks, and of Persia. Footnote 26, ever raging, so the 8 vo, the 4-2 rayur raging. 1t. Footnote 27, also the 4-2, inhibited in the 8v, not mind, meany, Footnote 28, and Jove may, I ends, I end, may Jove and see. This collocation of words is sometimes found in later writers, so in the prologue to Fletcher's Woman's Prize, which this may prove. Footnote 29, new, so the 8 of o. The 4-2, no, of all, Hayes, the 4-2, no. Footnote 30, lords, so the 4-2, the 8 vo lord, the 8 vo lord. Footnote 31, injury. This verb frequently occurs in our early writers. R, then heyu, ini yurid mani. Lyly's Alexander and Compassé, Sig. D4, ed. 1591. It would seem to have fallen into disuse soon after the commencement of the 17th century. In Heywood's Woman Killed with Kindness, 1607, we find, aswai, you injury that good man, and wrong me too, Sig. F2. But in ed. 1617 injury is altered to injure. Footnote 32, all the, so the 4-2, 1ta, ca omitted in the 8vo. Footnote 33, who, traveling and see. The halting meter shews that there is some corruption in this and the next line, drive and the next line. Footnote 34, thorough, so the 8-4, so the 8-vor. The 4-2, through. Footnote 35, unvalued, i.e. not to be valued or estimated, est not est. Footnote 36, conceit, i.e. fancy, imagination, imagination. Footnote 37, rhodope, old eds, age f, Rodolph, fee, Rodolph. Footnote 38, valuous, i.e. valuable, instead, wf. Footnote 39, pools, so the 8-vo, the 4-2 poles, I. Foal, quote. Footnote 40, resolved, i.e. dissolved, so the 8-vo, the 4-2 desalud, work, the 4-2 desalud. Footnote 41, shall we all offer, the 8-vo, shall we offer, the word all having dropped out, the 4-2 we all shall offer. First, not 41, after do. It's de data spet, but steta spet af. Followed note, 41, 7, holia, March writing at the data sped note, here's, and at the data, not, here. Footnote 42, in the 8-vo, ut, omitted in the 4-2, omitted in the 4-2. Footnote 43, triumphed, so the 8-vo, alger, the 4-2, triumph. Footnote 44, brave, i.e., splendidly clad, y.e., splendidly clad. Footnote 45, top, so, the 4-2, each-2, the 8-vo foot. Footnote 46, males, i.e. bags, budgets. Footnote 47, lance, so the 4-2, here the 8-fo has lanch, but more than once in the sec. Part of the play it has lance. Footnote 48, this, so the 8-vo, the 4-2, the 4-2 tas, s. H. Kai, where is this Scythian shepherd Tamburlaine? Well, compare the next words of their adamas. Footnote 49. Vaults. Here, the 8vo has boughts, which, says one of the modern editors, was common in Marlowe's time, and so it was, but in the sec. Part of this play, Act I. 4. The same 8vo gives 4. Interaction. As we descend into the infernal vaults. Hist. Footnote 50. CO, CA, CO, CR, CI, CIH, so the IDO, COC, CR, CA, CR, CA, CI. Footnote 51. Brave. See Note A in preceding column. NIE, Note 44, TE, Note 44. Footnote 52. Renowned, i.e. renowned, so the 8vo. The 4-2 renowned. The form renown ath for renown occurs repeatedly afterwards in this play according to the 8vo. It is occasionally found in writers posterior to Marlowe's time, e.g. of Constantine's great town Renum, in vain, verses to King James, prefixed to Lord Stirling's Monarchica, Tragedies, ed. 1607, for Ignis. Footnote 53. Cliffs, so the 8vo. The 4-2 cliffs, W, ast, W-a. Footnote 54. Merchants, i.e. merchant men, ships of trade. Footnote 55. Stems, English college, y.e. prows. Footnote 56. Veil, i.e. lower their flags, lower their flags. Footnote 57. Boots, the 8vo botes or the 4-2 boetis. Footnote 58. Competitor, i.e. associate, partner, a sense in which the word is used by Shakespeare. In Fashions, November, I, and the World. Footnote 59. To these, old eds, are these. EVs, I, support. I, for formal. Footnote 60. Renowned, see Note T, nature F, PEA, 1, mol F, hem, i.e., Note 52, mol F, mol, bone. 1, bone, bine, mol. 5, fime, fine, for O2, renowned. Footnote 61. Statues, so the 4-2. The first edition reads statutes, but, as the Scythians worshipped Pylades and Orestes in temples, we have adopted the reading of the quarto as being most probably the correct one. ID, Acts 10:26. In the matter of 1 Gs. ID 1826, or in fact 1 Baxt 61, or matter of 1 5 course, RD, usual. Footnote 62. Kings, so the 8FO. I, the 4-2 king. Footnote 63. Nor thee nor them. The modern editors silently print nor they nor theirs. Footnote 64. Will, so the 8VO omitted in the 4-2 dod, in the 2 dod O. Footnote 65. Pitch is generally equivalent to stature. I would have you tell me what pitch he was of. Veli mihi dicas qua statura fuerit. Coles's dict. But here it means the highest part of the body, the shoulders. See the 10th sign of pitch in Halliwell's dict, of arch and prov. Words, the pearl being, of course, his head. Footnote 66. And, so the 4-2. The 8vo with. Old buyer, stagers, y. In 2 thous, with thous point. Footnote 67. His arms and fingers long and sinewy, so the 8vo, except that, by a misprint, it has snowy for sinewy. While the 4-2 gives the line thus. His arms long, his fingers snowy white. Ho. And so the line used to stand in lamb's speck, of drum, poets, till I made the necessary alteration in Mr. Moxon's recent ed. of that selection. Well. Footnote 68, subdued, so the 8 vo, for our L. Ye stay, the 4-2, subdue. Footnote 69, nature doth strive with fortune, and see. Twice did Shakespeare recollect this passage when he wrote, Nature and fortune joined to make thee great. King John, Act c. 1. Footnote 70, Porti Gate WF, YE Gate WL, time. Footnote 71 is so the 8 vo, the 4-2 in. Footnote 72, in fair, and see, here, fair is to be considered as a dissyllable, compare, in the 4th act of our author's Jew of Malta, I'll feast you, lodge you, give you fair words, and, after that, and see. Footnote 73 of IE on NT2, RM, Bakers. Footnote 74, worse, so the 8 va, the 4-2-2, worst. Footnote 75, so the 8 vo, the 4-2 that, est, Colin. Footnote 76, his, so the 8 vo, Subbanies, trash of the 8 Subbanies. Footnote 77, b, so the 8 vo, the 4-2 the 4-2 Footnote 78, beside, so the 8 vo, the 4-2 besides. Footnote 79, champion, i.e. champagne. Footnote 80, greedy after, old eds, after, greedy. 6. Full, after greedy. Footnote 81, sprung, here and in the next speech, both the old eds. Sprung, but in P18, L3, first col, the 4-2 has sprung, and in the sec, part of the play active, SSC4, they both give CC4, they both give sprung from a tyrant's loins. Page 18, first column, line 3, this play, for he was never sprung. 18 of human race. Footnote 82, teeth of, so the 8 vo, omitted in the 4-2 die-s and ht die, y. Footnote 83, lance, here both the old eds, lance, but see note t, 16, but see note t, 16, yee, note 47. Footnote 84, so the 8 vo, domide, in the 4-2, a body. 1 t's domide in the 4-2. Footnote 85, some, so the 4-2, the 8 vo's scorn. 3. 8 vo scorn. Footnote 86, will, so the 8 vo. We file sun, die, serves they n, the 4-2 shall. Footnote 87, top i.e. rise above, surpass, old es, stop. Footnote 88, renowned, see note notes dest, see note des, e by, 11, note 52, so the 8 va, the 4-2 renowned. Stes after small. Footnote 89, thirst, the 8 vo thrust, the 4-2 thrist, each means. Footnote 90, and, so the 4-2, the 8 vo not, do not. Footnote 91, the fair, so the 8 vo, the 4-2 the fair, shod, the fair. Shod. Footnote 92, she i.e. nemesis. Footnote 93, Romness's old eds, M. Romness, M. News. Footnote 94, Meads, so the 8 vo, Evo, the 4-2 deeds. Footnote 95. Into. Used here as the word was formerly often used for unto, to. Footnote 96. Sure, a dissyllable here. In the next line, assure is a trisyllable. Footnote 97. With his crown in his hand, the old eds, add offering to hide it, but that he does presently after. Footnote 98. Those were, i.e., those who were, who have been, thons and ex. Footnote 99. Stand staggering, so the eightvo, the 4-2, stand those staggering. O. Marlowe. 1. Footnote 100. For kings are clouts that every man shoots at. Our crown, the pin, and c. Clout means the white mark in the butts. Pin, the peg in the center, which fastened it. No one, shift. 100 and right male. Footnote 101. Me, so the 4-2, omitted in the eightvo, 2. Footnote 102. My CDs, I, Mary, and C. From this to Tamburlaine. Well, I mean, you shall have it again, inclusive. The dialogue is prose. Compare Act Ive, C4. He to and tine, 4, 4, C, 4. 29. Footnote I-3. Renowned man-at-arms. See Note 10, Section I-36, Sections N, High Teen. E-teen Note 52. So the 8-vo, 25. The 4-2 renowned men-at-arms. Footnote 24. Chiefest, so the 4-2. The 8-vo chief, S-A-Y-A, boast, coveraging. I. Footnote. No one 5, happy, so the 8-fo, the 4-2, cos, co. The 4-2 toe happiest. Footnote 106, aimed, so the 4-2, the 8-vo, and. Footnote 27, it, so the 4-2, idevida, is stebbered, or berprida, bolto, or construs. Footnote 18, our, so the 4-2. In the weight v, oeth, omitted, in the 8-vu. Footnote henna 9, way, so, the 8-v. Aw, section. 1, the 4-2, I, or. Footnote 1110, in earth, ae on earth. So, in the Lord's Prayer, thy will be done, in earth. Alchtai, in earth. Footnote 101, Cassane, both the old e's. Here, Cassanes. Footnote 1000, a piece, so the 4-2, the 8-vido, saves, w. The 8-vido apace, 20. Footnote 113, purchase, i.e. booty, gain, stay, 7th eat, stay. Footnote 11.4. Quite, i.e. requite. Once he, requite. Footnote 115. This, so deictikos, the 8-vo, the 4-2, the 4. The 4. Footnote 116. Him, old eds, his, to, state, his, state. Footnote 117, and, so the 8-vo, the 4-2, with. Footnote 118, sprung, see Note A, section, 6 tie, section, 4, section, IA, Note 81. Footnote 119, dares, so the 8-vu, the 4-2 dare, the 4-2 dare. Footnote 20, fate, old eds, state, she, ald eds, state. Footnote 21, resolve. All seems to mean dissolve. Compare our body's turn to elements. P12 sec, coal. But I suspect some corruption here. Page 12, second column, this play, Tamburlaine. timbre and tone, until our bodies turn to elements and both our souls aspire celestial thrones, etc. Footnote SLs 2, barbarous, 42, barbarous, EKG, O barbarous, in the next line but one, O treacherous, and in the last line of the speech, O bloody. But we occasionally find in our early dramatists lines which are defective in the first syllable, and in some of these instances, at least it would almost seem that nothing has been omitted by the transcriber or printer. Footnote 23, RTA, 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 RTA. This form occurs again in the sec, part of the present play, so too in a copy of Verses by Day, Aston Ages, hid in the veins and RTAs of the earth. Shakespeare Soc. Papers, Vol. I, 19. The word indeed was variously written of old. The arter stringe is the conduit of the life spirite, Hormani vulgaria sig. Gii, ed. 1530. Riche treasures Sarah for arters of the war. Lord Stirling's Darius Act I, sig. C. Theo, ed. 1604. Only I, the extravagant artier of my arm, is bruised. Every woman in her humor, 69, sig. D. 4. And from the veins, some blood each artiere drains. Davies's Microcosmos, 1611, p. 56. Footnote 24, regiment, i.e. rule, NPA, rule. In 1 Footnote 25, fruit. So, the 4-2, the 8-vo fruits, S tree. 2, chi. Footnote 26 are HILs, dates, ILs is. AAs, dates. Footnote 127, talents, was often used by our early writers for talons, as many passages might be adduced to show. Hence the quibble in Shakespeare's Love's Laboureur K. Colsty, Act, Activun, Say to Die, number C, or EVSA, numberor, Say to Die, or EVSA, or in members, or hostratu, for allos, for Say to Done. Where are they? Host. Footnote 128, harpy, so the 8-vo. And with that reading, the line is cited in a note on Macbeth, Act IVSSSS, in a note on Macbeth, IDVCU also gives. Tires upon my life, but tires, a well-known term in falconry, and equivalent here to appraise, is to be pronounced as a dissyllable. In the 4-2 it, in spelt tire. Footnote 129, the 4-2. The ATVO, thy, stow. Footnote 130, bassos, et bashaws, ed bashaws. Footnote 131, Christians reneged, i.e., Christians who have denied or renounced their faith. In The Gent, magazine for Jan, 1841, J.M. would read Christians renegadans or Christian renegades. Arcalanes as bad as they were, or I stayed as they robily. But the old text is right. Among many passages that might be cited, compare the following. And that idol is the god of false Christine, that Han reneged higher faith, the voyage, and travail of Sir John Mondeville, p. 209, ed. 1725. For that thou shouldst rene thy faith, and her thereby possess. The Soldan did capitulate in vain, the more thy blesse. Warner's Albion's England, BCC 8, all T8 seized, Horder LT7, ed. D. 1597. Footnote 132, Terrene, i.e., Mediterranean. 1 down OM. Footnote 133, Renowned, see note, Named, see note, L1, i.e. note 52, so the 8va. 1919. Coursed, even Elbow, 42, Renowned. Footnote 24, Baso, so the 8vo, the 42 brother, the 42 brother. Footnote 35, Not, so the 8vo, not, so the 8vo, the 42 nor. Footnote 136, in, so the 8vo, the 42 on. Footnote 137, or spread and see. A word has dropped out from this line, dn, sti. Footnote 4 and 38 measured heaven, so the 8vo. The 42 measured the hewen. Footnote 13.9, pioneers, Easteen W of the Mustang, the usual spelling of the word in our early writers, in Shakespeare, for instance. Footnote 1 theory, ceaseless, so the 8vo, the 42 careless. Footnote 41, conceits, IEO, fancies, imaginations, IEO, fancies, IDC point. Footnote 142, counterfeit, i.e. picture, resemblance. Footnote 143, his, so the 8vo, the 42 the. Footnote 44, you, so the 8vo, the 42 me, h2 me, h2. Footnote 145, leave. The author probably wrote, Agitus, leave and see. Footnote 146, facts, and, i.e. deeds. Re deeds, are evil, am. Footnote 147, much, so the 8vo, in the 42 more. Footnote 148, pri, one eye, the daughters of Pyrrhus, who, having challenged the Muses to a trial of song, were overcome and changed into magpies. Footnote 149, the young Arabian skill, Alcidamus CP10, L9, sack, coal. Page 10, second column, line 9, this play, where her betrothed lord, Alcidamus. Footnote 150, fearing his love, EC, fearing with respect to his love. Footnote 151, of, so the 42, the 8vo, and, t8vo, and. Footnote, maybe 2, fury so the 42, tele, 1, d, 8 vers Alexanders. The 8 vers 0, 1, and dominate, stage 2. Footnote 53, shown, old eds, shown, old, yet ses, shine. Footnote 154, send, old eds, sent. Footnote 55, menace, so the 8vo, the 42 menon, ends, e, 2, 4, 2, mens. Footnote 56, fetch, so the 8vo, percepst, so the 80vo, first, the 422 fetched. Footnote 157, set, so the 8vo, the 42 seat, cat. Footnote 58, terrene, IEE, Mediterranean, stage can. Footnote 89, to rest or breathe, so the 8vo, so the 880, soda, sodo, to breath and rest. Footnote 160, bastones, i.e. bastinados, and straight, t. Footnote 41, they, so the 8vo, 160 omitted in the 42, to pay, y, lego, to pay. Footnote 162, Morocco, here the old Eads. Maracas, a barbarism which I have not retained, because previously in the stage direction at the commencement of this act, P19, they agree in reading Morocco. Footnote 163, Titles. So the 8 va, the 4-2 title, free. Footnote 164, Sorel, IEE, Seraglio, Don. Footnote 165, I'll, so the 8 vo, the 4-2 I, will. Indeed, to mace. 4-2. Footnote 166, the, so the 8 va, and I am, the 4-2 vis. Footnote 167, huggy i.e. huge, at huge. Footnote 1.68, renounce C note tt, fee or elevin i.e. note 52, so the 8 va, 8, the 4-2 renowned. Footnote 169, of, 4-2 by, the 4-2 are, all mine, 1. Footnote 170, rule, so the 8 vo, the 4-2 reign, turn, 1. Footnote 71, braver, so the 8 vo, the 4-2 bros a, wa, the 4-2 bros. Footnote 72, pash sie crushed to pieces by a stroke, Olver. Footnote 73, y sprung, here the old eads, y sprung, here y sprung. See Note USP 1 ACC 1EE Note 81. Footnote 74, them, old, eds, 7t, sevent, or sebent. Footnote 175, the has perhaps crept in by a mistake of the transcriber or printer. Footnote 76, and make your strokes to wound the senseless light. The old eds have. Experius avbotability signed of emprevia, was them unfining sex as no one tex without was them strakes, was emprevia, or was important. And make our strokes to wound the senseless lure. The last word being, perhaps, in the 8 vo, lute. Here, light is a very questionable reading, quai. Or idea, though the third line above ends with that word. Footnote 77, boss, I in the gent. Mag, for Jan. 1841, J.M. proposed to alter boss to bossa, but Cotgrave, in his dict, has a fat bosse, femme bien, grosse et grosse ungi. 17. Gross et gross ungi. Footnote 78, advocate, so the 4-2, the 8 EW dodix. Is tilehes in the ATVO adodicates, while Sutton series provided the Odonics and Monster on the Buvalas following. Footnote 79, that dare and see, something dropped out from this line. Footnote, one deity re-enter Bahazeth, pursued by Tamburlaine, the old eds have one fail as antir. Bahazeth flies and he pursues him. The Batel short Kuto is short, and they enter Bahazeth is come. This not very intelligible stage direction means perhaps that, after Bahazeth and Tamburlaine had entered, a short combat was to take place between them. Footnote 81, foil, the old ease, soil, 6, soil. Footnote 182, gat, so the 8, vo. 4, the 4-2 got. Footnote 83, pilling se, plundering. Footnote 84, British, so the 4-2, the 8 vor, brightest. We Albert dest. Footnote 85, Marshall, so the 8 vas, stern, the 4-2 material. Footnote 18.6, awake ye men of Memphis. These words are put into the mouth of Judas in Fletcher's Bonduca at the commencement of Act I and in Fletcher's Wit Without Money, Act VSSC. C2, we find Thou Man of Memphis. Footnote 87. Basilisks, pieces of ordnance so called. They were of immense size. See Deuces Illust of Shakespeare I 425 to D. Iam 425. Footnote 88. Monstrous, to be read as a trisyllable. Die m to die few. Footnote 89. Or ever drizzling, so the 4-2. Once stevity, I8 vo, or drissling. Stevity. Footnote 190. Should, so the 4-2. The 8 vo, shall. Footnote 191. He, devil, so the 8 vo. The 4-2. He, the devil way. 16. 6 lecture. Footnote 192. Arabian king, Sil. Alcidamas, CP 10 L9 Sec Col. Page 10, second column, line 9. This play, where her betrothed lord Alcidamas. Footnote 193. It's so, the 4-2, omitted in the 8 vu. It's Don Priors as the mitted in the 8 vu. Footnote 194. It should, so the 4-2. Well, it a, the 8 voa, should it. Well, or while base at the person in t, while. Well, for note one more. Footnote 19.5. This, so the 8 vi, the 4-2 it, vi. Footnote 96. Into, so the 4-2. Into, so the 8 vo, v ento. Hope, side. Assen, traded mind, she. Footnote 19.7. Heart, so the 4-2, Marlowe, and the 8 vo soul. Footnote 198. Stoop, quai, stoop. Footnote 199. Your, old eds, bulls, there. Compare the 10th line of the speech. Bows, to proceed, the Auspiers as y. Footnote 200. 2, so the 8 vo. I or the 4-2 on. Footnote 2001. Brent sie, burnt, so the 8 vo. The 4-2 burnt. Footnote 202. Kings, so the 8 vo. Boda, the 4-2 king. Stay 02 king. Footnote 203. From, so, the 4-2. The 8 von. Rem. Emd, I. Footnote 24. Then, for you, so, the 4-2. 2. The ativo, for you, then. Ativo, for you, then. Footnote 205. Stark knack, distect. Compare, among many passages which might be cited from our early poets. Rather on Nelis's mud, lay me stark, nake, d, and let the waterflies blow me into abhorring. Shakespeare's Antony and Cleopatra, Act B CC 2, where the modern editors print naked. Footnote 206. Dignities. So the 8 vo, the 4-2 dignity, 4 to dignity. Footnote 27. Whiles, so the 8 v. Asine, so the 8 vo, the 4-2 while. If footnote 208. Shout, so the 4-2, the 8 vol shall. 19. Hard. Footnote 29. Grace els eds. Ages s. Graced shell. Ages idd. Footnote 210. Stature, so the 8 vo. The 02 statue, but again, in the second part of this play, Act I. C. SSC tie, 4. We have, according to the 8 vo. And here will I set up her stature. And, among many passages that might be cited from our early authors, Compare the following. Also, the stature's huge, of porphyry and costlier matters made. Warner's Albion's England, p. 303, ed. 1596. By them shall Isis' stature gently stand. Chapman's Blind Beggar of Alexandria, 1598, sig. A 3. Was not Anubis with his long nose of gold preferred before Neptune, whose stature was but brass? Lyly's Midas, sig. A 2, ed. 1592, Mineses. Footnote 211, bird i.e., the ibis, 1 i.e., the ibis. Footnote 212, R8, 70, our old eds s, is 70s, is. Footnote 213, country, old Ed's, countries. Footnote 214, King of Arabia, al-Sidamus cp10, al-9, sec, col, look, or dar, sec, col. Page 10, second column, line 9, this play, where her betrothed lord, Alcidamus. Footnote 25, Caledonian, so the 8vo, wine, said bad. The 4250, Chalcedonian, 5 shad, said bad. Footnote 216, lusty, so the 8vo, omitted in the 42, omitted in the 42. Footnote 217, and, so the 42, a number at, permitted in the 8vo die. Footnote 28, re now med, C note steps, am, com, sepster, 11, cam, cae, note 52, so the 8vo, the 42 re now, nade. Footnote 219, Ibis's holy name. The ibis has been already alluded to in the lines p. 27, Secot's town, for away, 5. The golden stature of their feathered bird that spreads her wings upon the city walls. And it is well known to have been a sacred bird among the Egyptians. See Cicero, De Nat. Deorum, I 36. Compare the old play of the taming of a shrew. Father, I swear, by Ibis's golden bake, more fair and radiante is my bony Kate than Silur, Xanthus, and Ct2, Stitu, Estiti, or I, Stitu, 24, Stiti. In the passage of our text, the modern editors substitute Isis's for Ibis's. Footnote 220, so the ATVI, the 42 and, the 422 and, 2 ATA, footnote 21, and, so the 8vo, omitted in the 42, omitted in the 42 dud. Footnote 222, thy baseness and, so the 8vo, the 42, the basenessy of. Footnote 23, mask, so the 8 va, the 42 walk, once h, one more as, 428, topsage, in the bird, in also research described fear and pain mon. Footnote 224, my lord and see, something has dropped out, quae, a porch teamly suffer. Footnote 225, a goodly refreshing for them, so the 8vo, the 42a, good refreshing to them. Footnote 226, here, so the 8vo, the 42 there, the 42 there. Footnote 227, it from, so the 8vo, sime, so the 8vo, rei, sime als l, sime. Footnote 228, slice, so the 8vo, to fleece, sr, to fleece, r as and. Footnote 29, will fall, so the 8vo, the 42 will not fall. The 42 will not fall. Footnote 230, let is, ae, hinder. Footnote 231, while, i.e. until, dolt. Footnote 2032, consort, i.e. band. 4, i.e. band. 4 as a. Footnote 233, pen, i.e. his sword. All T24s and tent, bolt. Footnote 234, hastening, so the 4-2, the 8-vor, stein. The 8-vor, stein. Footnote 2035, specially, so the 8-vo, the 4-2, specially, 22, specially. YU. Footnote 236, Morocco. Here and in the next speech, the old Eds have maracas and maracas, but see note P22, i.e., note 162. Footnote 237, plage, i.e. region, old Eads, old e's, place. Old e's are, ye, certain. Footnote 2038, valor, old Eds, value. 4, new, the vine. 4, forts. Well. Footnote 239, again, so the 8-4, omitted in the 4-2, to et 9 or dot 9. Footnote 240, renowned, see note 2, see note T, P1 known, i.e. note 52, so the 8-vo, the 4-2 renowned, peers for GU. Footnote 241, Damascus, both the old Eds, here Damasco, but in many other places they agree in reading Damascus. Footnote 242, remorse, i.e. pity. 2. Footnote 243, sakes, so the 8-vo, the 4-2, sake, ta. Footnote 244, blubbered, that this word formerly conveyed no ludicrous idea, appears from many passages of our early writers. Each SSS, research for, or each SSS is the doctrines for 4-4. Footnote 245, and use us like a loving conqueror, i.e., and that he will use us like, and see, ed. 1826. Footnote 246, care, so the 4-2. The 8-vo cares, and 2, hars. Footnote 247, helps, so the 8-vo, the 4-2 help, the 4-2 help. IT48, or so the 8-vo. IT4, the 4-2-4, the 4. Chi. Footnote 249, power, so the 8-vo, the 4-2 powers, the 4-2 powers. Instead, circles. Footnote 250, new, so the 8-vo, sounded dal, no, sound. 4. Footnote 251, reflexed, old Eds's, reflexing. In this day, spintace. Well. Footnote 252, there, old Eads, 1, or old Eads, or 5, wine, 5. Footnote 253, as, so the 8-vo, the 4-2 and, end. Y. Footnote 254, tense, so the 8-vo, the 4-2 toe, tent. Footnote 255, submission, old EDs, submissions. Footnote 256 of Ruth and, so the 8-veto, the 4-2 and Ruth of. Footnote 257, conceit, i.e. fancy, imagination. Footnote 258, hath, so, the 4-2, the 8-vo, howe, the 8-voi, howe. E4 note 25-9, nourished, so the 8-ez, 4, rise and h, progress, so the 8-vo. Footnote 260, wished, so the 8fo, are dark, sheth, the 42 wish. Wish? Footnote 261, imperious, so the 8vo, a precious, trash im. Footnote 262, passion, i.e. sorrow, ng find, rw, first estates. Footnote 263, resolved, i.e. dissolved. Footnote 264, eyes, when that Abena steps to heaven and see. Either the transcriber or the printer has made sad work with this passage, nor am I able to suggest any probable emendation. All CZZ. Footnote 265, fight, so the 8-4, the 4-2, fights. Footnote 266, Persia's old eds, and Persians and Persians. Footnote 267, still i.e. distal. Footnote 268, I thus conceiving and subduing both that which hath stooped the chiefest of the gods, even from the fiery spangled veil of heaven, to feel the lovely warmth of shepherds' flames, and mask in cottages of strowed reeds and sea, i.e., I thus feeling, and also subduing, the power of beauty, which has drawn down the chiefest of the gods even from and sea. The 8vo has, I thus concealing and subduing both. That which hath stopped the tempest of the gods, hewn from the fiery spangled veil of hewen to feel the lowly warmth of shepherds' flames, and march in cottages of strowed weeds, and cc. The 4-2 has, I thus concealing and subduing both, that which hath stopped the tempest of the gods, hewn from the spangled fury veil of hewen, to feel the lowly warmth of shepherdess flames, and march in coaches of strowed weeds and sea. The alterations which I have made in this corrupted passage are supported by the following lines of the play. See now, ye slaves, my children, stoop your pride, make your pride to stoop, and lead your bodies sheep-like to the sword. Part 2nd, Act IV, NC5, C5. The chiefest god, first mover of that sphere, and C. Part 1st, Act IV, C2. 2. Jove, sometime masked in a shepherd's weed and sea. Part 1st, Act ISSSC 2. Why, high. Perhaps in the third line of the present passage, fiery spangled should be fire, I spangled. Footnote 269, attend, old, eds, an, she, a misprint, probably, which the modern editors understand as Anipe, the waiting maid of Xenocrate, in eat, which carved 269. Footnote 270, march on us with, so, the 4-2, the 8-va marched, on, with versus with. Wise T in the wait. Footnote 271, as if there were no way but one with us, i.e., as if we were to lose our lives. This phrase, which is common in our early writers, was not obsolete in Dryden's time, for if he heard the malicious trumpeter proclaiming his name before his betters, he knew there was but one way with him. Preface to All for Love, I.O.K. 9. Footnote 27.2. Poor. So the 8v, avage. One staxed. 1. 4. Footnote 273. NIEE. On, ein. Footnote 274. Stay. Old EEDs. AE and A. Hate. Footnote 275. Retorqued, i.e., bent back in reflections on our former happiness, so the 8vo. The 4-2 retortude. Footnote 276. A old eds, A as. Footnote 277. Elysium, old eds, Elysium, Elysium, and pay calls, Elysium. Footnote 278. Thoughts, so the 8 vo, the 4, the 4-2, thought. Footnote 279. Parbreak, ae vomit. Each vomit, dominate. Footnote 280. Abjection, old edestin, obeiction, if the darkest, idestin. Footnote 287. Villainous, s call, slave. Each call, slave. Footnote 28.2. Ruth, so the 8 vo, they 4-2, dawn. 1 times arrive. 4, ta, truth. Footnote 283. Resolve, ae, dissolve. Footnote 28.4. Banned, i.e. cursed. Each e cursed. Footnote 285. The 4-2, the 8 vo I. Why else taper, rj, why, compare. Footnote 286. Ever living, so the 8 vo, the 4-2, 1 Shita, 1 4 1. Footnote 287. Give, of, so the 4-2. Footnote 288. Her must mean xenocrat, whom Zabina fancies herself to be addressing, on new dressing, new dry. Footnote 289. Let the soldiers be buried. Hell, death, Tamburlaine. So the 8 vo, omitted in the 4-2. Where the modern editors got their reading, let the soldiers be cursed, I know not. Footnote 290. Make ready my coach. Shakespeare seems to have remembered this passage when he made Ophelia say, "Come, my coach," and see Hamlet, Acca VCE, CE 5. Footnote 291. I come, I come, I come, I come, so the 8 vo. The 4-2, I come, first. Why, thirst, first, why. Footnote 292. Egyptians, so the 4-2. Abadio, the 8 the double Egyptian. Thay, Wellmain. Footnote 29.3. The, old eds. Phi, sections. End, thy. Phi. Footnote 29.4. Thy, so, the 8 vo, the 4-2, thine. Footnote 29.5. War, so the 8 vo, the 4-2 wars, ig, the 4-2, ig. Footnote 296. Come old edes, isa, I, phi, si, fido, saes. Foot 29.6 and certain 4 foot. Here's a little does are unknown, stort for on none, fief. Note 29.6 steps 5 ones new 6 and came. F footnote 2 under 7 armed, so the 8 ver arm, the 4-2 armes. Footnote 298 final, so the 4-2, the 8 vo small. Footnote 299. King of Arabia, i.e. Alcidamas, CP 10, L9, second, coal, train. Page 10, second column, line 9, this play, where her betrothed lord, Alcidamas, hey, fists. Footnote 300. Thy, so, the 4-2. The 8 vo, my. Instest. Footnote 301. Conceit, i.e. fancy, imagination. Footnote 302. Have, so the 8 fa. 12 for es, 1 for 2 for es, 4, 1 the 4-2, 4. Footnote 303. Euphrates. So our old poets invariably, I believe, accentuate this word. Note: Euphrates was printed with no accented characters at all. Footnote 304, should, so the 8 vo. The 4-2 shall. Footnote 305, sweat, so the 8 vdo, to swear, for estektions, first to swear. Footnote 306, wide gaping old edes, wide gasping, entry, 4, demagogy. Footnote 307, resolved, i.e., dissolved, I dissolved. Footnote 308, millions, so the 8 vo, the 4-2 million. A footnote 309, Elysium, old es, Elysium. Elysium, in fighters and the Bastarum, while. Footnote 310, renowned, C note, sexcas, xcas, so the 8 vo, sexcas, xcas, sexcas, house, hcas, its cast town, sextans it town, Rother 2029. Footnote 31, record cower 40a, 6 time, stock swin. Instead swin, stock swin end. Footnote 3012, no further time, i.e., no more distant time. Footnote 34, the, so the 8 voy, first the 4-2 my, 4, I get, thos, above. Or Englished you, ticks 2, 16, forn, fish, 1, certain 20. Footnote 34, I not, so the 8 vu, over. The 4-2, not I. 4-2, not I. Footnote 315, else, so the 4-2, the 8 vo bud, then. Footnote 316, on, so the 4-2, omitted in the 8 vo. Footnote 317, as beseems, so the 4-2, the 8 vo, as best beseems. Footnote 318, we will our rights and see, old edzas, we will our celebrated rights and see. The word celebrated occurs in both the old editions, but may well be dispensed with as regards both the sense and measure. Ed. 1 day 26. I think this word got into the text from either the author or printer, who was perhaps the editor, doubting whether to use solemnize or celebrate, and it slipped from the margin, where it was probably placed, into the verse itself. J. M. in Ghent. Thanks for listening to Tamburlaine the Great, Part 1, by Christopher Marlowe.